I'm in Max. You are listening to Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. I'm in Max. Pursuing the RPG hobby with reckless abandon.
Hello.
Hello.
Sorry, I'm doing all the things. Welcome. This is the Happy Jack's RPG Podcast, and I am not Stu.
I am not Kimmy.
I am not Gina.
You're a liar.
I'm Jim, and the only honest one.
Yeah. Because I is Gina.
Jim, you got to be louder.
I do?
Yep.
I will speak more forcefully.
Good. Excellent.
All right.
There you go.
Perfect.
Very good. There, much
Good.
better. All right.
Because I have important things to say with my word usements.
You do. Absolutely. All right. So, as you can tell, our fearless leader, Stu, is not here tonight. He is preparing for our great Halloween party, which is tomorrow,
Yarp.
even though it's nowhere near Halloween. So we are going to soldier on without him this evening.
Relatively near.
It's sort of. We're like halfway there. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yes. First off, if you want to find us on social media, you can find us at Happy Jack's RPG, all one word, at just about everything. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on the Facebooks. We have a Facebook fan page, and we also have a Facebook community if you want to search for that and join that. It's pretty cool. And we also have a forum. If you go to happyjacks.org, you can find the forum there. You can also find our Discord there. So it's under the community tab. So meet with the other crazy people who like us for some reason. And also us. We also talk there too. So it's pretty cool. Right. Yeah. So let's get started on email in the first.
Who wants to be first?
Not it.
It's in front of you. So why don't you start?
Oh, there.
I'll be first.
Yay.
Breaking with... do you want that one?
No. I
Okay.
think this one.
Anticipating... Wait, is this first? Yeah. Cool. Let's make sure. Anticipating player solutions from Steve in SoCal. Venerable lords and ladies of douchitude, I once again beseech thy wisdom. When laying out challenges for your players to overcome, how much pre-planning do you do on potential solutions? This isn't really a matter of railroading, as I am presupposing that you aren't forcing your players down any particular path, but more a question of how much prep you do. I freely admit that I tend to over-prep and will generally try to loosely brainstorm a handful of potential solutions. I do this in part so that I have some pre-canned responses to the situation prepped, and in part to help nudge the party in certain directions if they are stuck in analysis paralysis mode. For example, if the PCs need to get past some guards, I want to have a combat encounter ready in the event that they choose to bowl past the guards, and some notion of how guards might react to negotiation, bribery, and of course the inevitable arson attempts. Says at Arson Crafts.
So it's Bernie hobos instead of murder hobos.
Yeah. Other approaches seem to be more on the laissez-faire side of things. Is just to present a situation problem and taking the they have to figure it out approach. An example from a recent session for this was the party was tasked with finding a dragon lair hidden in blizzard ensconced mountains, but the GM had no clue how the party was going to approach it. Where do you fall on this spectrum? And do you have any helpful advice? Steve in SoCal, the Grimace on the forums. P.S. There are too damn many Steves around these days. We need to have a Highlander-style battle to the death. There can be only one. P.P.S. Please feel free to sing
I was about to do that.
of the universe now, and then take a drink. I'll leave this here in case you guys need.
Here we are,
Yeah.
born to be kings. We're princes of the universe.
Okay, we have to stop now, or else I have to say.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys. I don't. As a general rule. I like to see, if I presuppose what people are going to do, then even if I don't intend to, I find that I start just moving towards that being the solution. Trying to give them clues or whatever to try and move them towards it. And I really love seeing what my players come up with. The only caveat to that is, they come up with something, you decide how it's going to go.
Right.
So the caveat to that has to be you need to be fans of your player characters.
Yeah.
You've got to be fans of them. So you're not just putting in roadblock to roadblock because it's not how you would do it.
Yeah.
The other caveat to that is just because you're fans of them doesn't mean you have to bow to their every whim.
Right.
If they're like, oh, well, I'm going to zip line to it. It's like, there's not a place for you to zip line, and you
It
don't
also depends on the style.
get it to want to do that. Yeah, exactly.
If it's a super high action, pulpy, fake game,
Then
where you-
absolutely.
then yeah.
But you don't feel like you have to allow and have everything succeed.
Right.
Sometimes there's, does this work? No. Did this work? No. Until the thing that does work happens.
Yeah.
But I as a general rule do not plan out what my players are going to come up with.
I find it actually counterproductive to do so, personally. And my method is always to basically pin down motivations. So I know what these guards' jobs are. I know how dedicated they are to making sure that it happens. And so I just sort of create in my brain a general disposition of what these guys are going to react to, whatever input that they have, and then I just bounce that reaction back to the players and let things go fluidly. And we were talking about sandboxes a few weeks ago, and that's sort of the key to making sort of like this a real living world, in the fact that you're not really thinking of the world as a narrative, but you're thinking of the world as an actual living, breathing, reactive force with people that have their own ideas and motivations coming into conflict or not with the player characters. So as long as I got some decent stats out for the guards, if things go down, I'm cool.
Yeah.
I think a typical response for me is I think it kind of depends. Because I've run encounters before, so where there is a there is a scripted answer to the problem. I think determining, even in that regard, kind of determining how they get there and what they get when they get there is still kind of flexible, even though you're playing where somebody could play somewhere else on their next table day or that sort of thing. So I can see that if you're more comfortable, well, let's go to example 2, which is more traditional games. I think you do have to be somewhat prepared depending on how much you know the system. So if you know L5R really well, you are comfortable bouncing up, oh my god, they went to the bar, they didn't even go to do this forest crawl I was going to have them do or whatever. So you're a lot more comfortable responding to whatever the players bump up against, either whether it's people or environment or that sort of thing, where somebody who's just learning a system might need to sit down and do what Steve is talking about, which is kind of pre-prepare some possible responses, and then just kind of, it sounds like he does this too, but be prepared to go where he needs to go based on the awesomeness of his players.
I find that game prep has a lot to do with confidence.
Yes.
So
Good point.
if you feel a little bit shaky in your confidence about either where the story's going or the system, or where if one of the players is basically sort of shaking your confidence in the game because they seem to be sort of manipulating the game in a direction that you weren't prepared for, that lack of confidence can really be buttressed by a certain level of preparedness on the front end. It depends on your table, and it depends on the situation that you're playing in. So if you're really, really comfortable with what's going on, you can just walk up to the table and on the fly do whatever the heck's going on.
Yep.
If you don't have that sort of like comfort or trust with your players established front line, then for nothing other than giving you that little bit of extra confidence to make sure that you feel that you're walking into a situation where you can actually react to things and control things, go for it. Do as much prep as you want, because if you don't feel good going into the game and being able to tell the story that you want to tell, or facilitate the story that your players want to tell, because those are two different things. There are two different goals that can align, but they can be divergent. If you're not confident going into that, then do a lot of prep. Cover your bases. If anything, it'll just make you feel better about it going in, and you're going to have a better experience.
I'm going to disagree a little bit about it being based on confidence, because I'm a pretty confident GM. But to me, entirely depends on what system I'm running.
Right.
So
Yeah.
if I'm running PBTA, sure, I'll sit down with nothing prepped and I can
Yeah.
make that happen. But if I'm running Wild Talents, which actually I've run more than PBTA, there's a lot of mathematics in that game.
Right.
So
Yeah.
if they are going to go, Tabby's excited about that.
I love math.
Yeah. Well, and I love that system. It's really great, but
Yeah.
it's very easy to get with player characters like overpowering any baddies you put in front of them. So you do have to be more careful
Yeah.
in systems like that are more math dependent. Because if a certain couple hard die or whatever, and those encounters aren't challenging, so you do have to think about that a little bit more and prep ahead of time. You can have your these are my unnamed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 soldier guys that you can pull out if something unexpected happens. But it's also good, to have you have to have some amount of planned characters
Right.
for that for them
Yeah.
to face off against for it to be challenging. And if you have to, you can pull the ones from the back of the book, but that's not always the best.
The crazy
Yeah.
thing about it is that the more complex and crunchy the system, I think the more prep that you're
that was
actually
my third-
responsible
my third
to,
point.
to go up to.
That was
Yeah.
exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the answer really is, Gina, you're 100%. It depends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it depends on what you're going into, and if you need to know a lot of variable numbers and a lot of things about an NPC to
Yeah.
make it actually convincing, and make the characters completely immersed in what's going on without you having to constantly check things. Yeah, you need to do some prep work.
Okay, boy, am I going to disagree with you guys now.
Oh.
Traveler is a crunchy game, right?
Yes.
I ran it for the first time I ran Mongoose Traveler. That was my infamous game.
Oh, no.
Where my players on the first game made a right turn, and suddenly they were taking over like the entire system.
Right.
And so I never was able to plan for a game.
Right.
And it's a very crunchy
Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
However, I did a ton of work on getting familiar with the system.
Absolutely.
Putting the world together so I knew the motivations behind
Yep.
all of these different things.
I think the way I
And
want to put
so-
it is, if you know what all the numbers mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
okay.
If you know it backwards and forwards.
Good point.
Like, I am
Yeah.
right now getting ready for a Shadowrun one-off that I want to do. And I have never run 5th edition Shadowrun. But I want to run it. So right now I'm getting really familiar with the system. I'm reading it over and over. I'm running simulations. I'm, trying to make sure I sort of know what all the numbers mean so that when it's like, okay, here's your run, you're going to steal some data. Cool. I have no idea how they're going to do it.
Yeah.
And they're going to say, I want to do this to find information about it. Cool, well, I'll make up some information about it. And as they go and as the players use and kind of define the run by their own traits, then I get to discover it as they do. And I think that's the thing that's not the thing I love most, but it's one of the things I love most about GMing is I get to discover everything along with them, and that is a lot of fun for me.
I think that's
Yeah.
great, but I would not be able to make bad guys up on the fly, no matter how well I knew a system.
Right.
Probably.
Well, I just
yeah.
I make dice pools.
Okay.
I don't make
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, because
But
I think
once a dice pool is defined, it is defined.
Right.
And I'm not going to modify it, but yeah.
okay, because I think that's the thing. It's not necessarily you're creating answers, but you do have, for me, I always think of it as that choose your own adventure kind of book. It's like I have no idea what the players are going to choose. I've got some stuff, and they're probably going to pick something like option D, the thing I never thought of.
Oh, for sure.
But if you do some prep, for and like for my example, Wild Talents, like if I have those baddies, I'm like, okay, they're going to fight, a fire guy who's, a corporate, douchebag, and he's going to be the bad guy. And then they go to somewhere else, and they end up in, the Siberian tundra, and I have to make the bad guy there. Suddenly, that bad guy I make gets reskinned. So
Exactly.
So that prep is still good, no matter what option they choose. And well, depending. If they go somewhere completely different, like I can reskin that prep I did to fit the choice they've made. So it's not about necessarily railroading them into no, you're going to waste time in Siberia, and that's going to be a totally lame part of the game, and then you're eventually going to come back to what I planned.
Right.
Like you can't do that.
Yeah, and we've talked about that before, and that's a really good point, Kimmy, that depending on what type of game you're running, it might be more traditional, or if it's more a story game, maybe you don't have to do that prep, and it might not have anything to do with the type of game, but just your confidence level or how you're comfortable having prep. I've heard this from lots of GMs too. It's like the more prep you do, you don't necessarily have to come to the table like you guys were saying with scenarios, because like you're able to respond a lot more quickly. But if there is something you really want them to get out of that session, whether it's a clue or to meet a specific NPC, or there's just something you wanted to have happen, you just make it happen like however you can reasonably within the fiction.
Well, you can't. Well, it's more about having... It's like when you invite people over to your house and you don't know what they want to drink. You have a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So you'll prep that little bit of everything. And if they want soda, great. Oh, you don't drink soda. Okay, well, here's my LaCroix. Oh, you don't like LaCroix. Well, here's my fucking beer. So, hopefully they like one of the things you prepared. They probably won't. They'll be like, oh, no, I only drink, champagne that's been chilled for 12 hours because they're players. So then you do have to, improv. There's always going to be that bit of improv. But having that buffet of these are things I've done the math on makes you less stressed as a GM and more willing to go with the flow. That can really impact your game and help.
I think that's true, but I also think there are circumstances when you're running a game that you absolutely want to see something small happen. So it doesn't necessarily fall within railroading, or it's just something whether it's backstory from one of the player characters, you want them to meet someone from their backstory or something like that. So I feel like this is another one of those, the GM's a player too. So you're contributing to the story, and you are not always constantly just responding and reacting to other people's stuff. It's the push-pull. So is that element that you're going to introduce because someone botched a die roll, or is it just you are going to introduce this because this is the scene and it's scene appropriate?
Doesn't that also have a lot of influence on the fact of the relationship that you have with your players? Because your players have to be willing to let you play in the game as well. And that's a very important concept of the GM is also a player in the game.
Yeah, I think it depends on how much and how often and how you're exerting that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you keep ham-fisting it and keep forcing things on your players, they're going to end up being resistant and resentful of it. Mm-hmm. But if you really sort of just...
no, you're good.
Right.
I had a thought. It wasn't about your mic.
Okay.
For once.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love about role-playing games is there are certain elements that I find in a game that I find attractive, and I'll just port them to a bunch of different games. And Caddy brought up Shadowrun, and one of the things that I loved about certain editions of Shadowrun is that they gave you a list of NPCs, but they gave you two very important tools on top of that. They gave you a thing called professional rating, and they gave you a thing called challenge rating. So what it is that those two elements form a dice pool. And they're generic and can apply to any NPC that you want.
That's
how
nice.
generally powerful is he? And that's your challenge rating. What's the professional rating? Is how committed are they to their mission?
Nice.
So not only do you get extra dice for your professional rating, but if they take a serious wound at a certain professional rating, they'll just retreat. Take a moderate wound at a certain professional rating, they'll just retreat. So it gives you a key onto behavior and a key on how generally good they are at what they do. And I like that. I transfer that element to a lot of the different games that I play, where I just create a chart depending on what the math of that whatever game is, where I just have a formula where, okay, I want this guy to be sort of this badass and this committed to what they're doing and creative about what they're doing.
I like that a lot.
And that allows you to just sort of create NPCs on the fly just by using sort of a calculation of like, this is how the math works out for how powerful this person is. Move on. Next step.
That's really cool. I really like that.
That actually kind of reminds me of something that happened my first year out at East Jesus. And for those of you who don't know, it's this wacky experimental, sustainable, habitable art installation.
Mad Max. It's Mad Max.
I used to run down by the Salton Sea.
With a little less murder.
Yeah. And so we have this whole area of stuff, supplies that we use for art or for things. And so it's our boneyard. And one year in the summer, there's nobody else there but myself and my wife. And I hear something about 2 a.m. And so there's not a lot of law enforcement out there, so I grab a pistol and jump out of there to see if somebody's fucking with shit. And then I realize, oh my god, I'm a naked guy with a gun in the desert. Holy shit. What has my life come to?
But I forgot I had my strap on out here.
You know what's funny is like you were probably the only person who'd be surprised at that.
Yeah, probably.
There, it's like, oh, that's just
I would not want to
Tuesday.
get hit by a shell when I have naked bits.
Well,
out.
I mean, really what I'm worried about is somebody taking stuff, somebody
Well,
going to
true.
light fire to something.
Yeah.
Scrapping
And
with
so-
somebody in the dirt of
Well-
the desert with your no pants on.
Right. But the idea is that, a guard might be really, really dedicated to their job, even if they aren't paid very well. It doesn't matter what their pay grade is. Their professional rating might be really high.
Yeah.
And that's just an interesting thing to kind of think about
Yeah.
in this
You know,
context.
and the thing is
it
that
might be performance appraisal time. So they got to be really good for like 2 weeks. 'cause
or they might be protecting something that is of personal
Right.
interest to them there.
Yeah.
That may not really belie his job.
Yep.
And that's what I loved about them sort of combining the two general elements of how good are they and how committed they are to what they're doing. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's a very important
That
thing
is
to note in
very
an NPC.
important.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
especially if they're fighting the bad guys or the good guys, because like if they come in like and there's like they're kicking ass, it's like I'm out. This is my minimum wage is not worth whatever this is. I'm out of here.
I
I'm not even
actually
getting
took a
15
bullet
bucks
to
an
the
hour.
shoulder. I'm gone.
Yeah, exactly.
Or a bullet went by me.
Yeah. I'm gone.
I'm out of here. That is a
Yeah.
scary sound.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. I'm gonna have to look more into that
Yeah.
because I think that would like help my repertoire of GMing, like my toolbox of because I think that would work with just about every system.
That's exactly what it is. It's a
Yeah.
toolbox, and you build that toolbox for yourself after you
Exactly.
start experiencing more and more systems. Because when I run D&D, sometimes I bring some PBTA elements into it,
Absolutely.
as well. It's sort of like a trade-off. Whatever things I
Yes.
like, I
Yep.
just use.
Yeah, and every system. And
Yep.
I'm finding myself doing that a lot more too. Like I've brought so many elements from different PBTA and even some from like D&D into like Wild Talents, etc. And like it's amazing.
Which is why it's always, always good to play more different games.
Yes.
Like if you're only playing D&D,
More
that's
and more
awesome.
differenter.
It's
Yeah.
just anything you do, diversity is
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
awesome thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Period. Whether it's systems, people, whatever it is, diversity
Yeah.
is
Yep.
awesome.
Yes, absolutely. You said one thing that was interesting a second ago, Jim, too. You were like, you were talking about your players. I don't remember what you were saying specifically, but you were talking about your players, getting bored. Or think about a GM who constantly gave them the answers.
Yeah.
Well, the other flip side of that too, which is almost worse for me as a GM, at least in my opinion, is them becoming complacent and expecting you to give them the answers all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
That makes your work so much harder. Oh my gosh, as a GM.
That's why I have this incredible cheat. Like I cheat all the time when I GM.
Yeah.
And that is having amazing players.
Yeah.
That you've played with for years and years and years.
Yep.
And
that is a cheat.
It's a fucking cheat because when you have players who create motivations for their characters and then follow them independently of what you're doing,
And then follow them.
then you just go, oh, I'll follow
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah.
But everything's just a motivation chain, and you're just tugging at the motivations. And look, if you're
Oh my
lucky
God,
enough to
yeah.
have a fantastic group of players, man, like I keep saying, RPGs are a freaking awesome hobby, but when it's bad, it's so bad. But when it's good, it's so orgasmically good.
Right? No,
You
it's so true.
It's absolutely true, and there's very little middle ground or blah. It's either like this, or it's like going, I can't wait to play again. Can I play again right
Right?
now? Can we
Yeah.
just go on till 2 a.m. because I want to keep on going?
I don't know what you're talking about.
And,
Yeah.
and for,
Okay.
for those of you who are also players, because I think all GMs are
Yeah.
typically also play. There are some people who only GM. Think about that too. Get your character's motivations when
Yeah.
you're making it. Try and follow those motivations. Try and be proactive. The more proactive the players are, the easier it is for me as a GM, the more fun we all have, because you
Yeah.
are 100% having an impact on the story.
Yeah.
Because I am following your motivations.
Give your
and
GM
I
plot
am-
hooks.
Yeah.
Build
Yeah.
the backstory.
Yes.
Find out what your character wants
Yeah.
and how he wants to do it, and communicate that with everybody else, because it's only going to end up with a superior storytelling
Right.
experience.
Well, I think too, and I think part of it's because I'm a teacher and I work with 36 little people every day. They like if you not everyone has that dream. Like we are super lucky, and we embrace that we have an amazing pool of players that we play with. Not everyone is that lucky. You can improve your player base as the GM. It's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to be able to be like, here's my open worlds, do your thing, because they'll be like, what is the right answer? I don't know. But you can start slowly giving them more options or being a little bit more open world with certain things. And I'm actually talking one of my friends who's GMing a game for the first time through this right now, and I'm explaining to him like modular game design and things like that, so things can be flipped around really easily, and how Post-it notes are the best thing ever invented in the universe, because it's easy to take your notes and be like flip. I'm flipping them, by the way, if people are listening to the podcast.
That is the flop is the sound of a flip.
Yes.
The
I know it's-
patented Kimmy flip.
Yes, that's mine. So start having those smaller choices. Okay, you get to the town. Where do you go? Don't be like, do you go to the tavern? Like, give them, slowly open the world for them, slowly give them more branches on their choice trees, and then eventually, hopefully you'll get there.
And a quick tip on how to really make that go very simply for your character is if they do something that is generated by the dice that's particularly awesome.
Yeah.
Instead of telling the dice, I rolled 20 and it was awesome,
Yep.
go, tell me what that looked like.
Yep.
Explain to me what happened in that particular situation to make that happen so badassly.
Yep.
And then you're giving the player a little bit of agency. And then when they tell the story about what happened, it no longer turns into a story, I rolled this natural 20 and it was awesome and I killed the monster at the end. No, he says, well, dude, what I did was I got in there and I cleverly decided to slip under the creature just because I knew it was going to be distracted by this thing. And then you tell the narrative story about what happens. And then they start getting that thirst for being able to tell those kind of stories
Make
and
'em
being
thirsty.
for being part of an actual storytelling instead of being just riding the wave of what the dice tell you is going on. No, you say what's going on. The dice just guide you in the right direction. And when people start getting really comfortable with sort of detailing out what a scene looks like, they're going to start doing it on their own. And then they're going to start telling the story for you. And then you're going to be lucky like Jib and just stand back and watch as everybody just works stuff.
You're like, I'm a brilliant GM.
He is a brilliant GM.
All right.
I also want to. I've said this before, and
Repeat
I'm going to
yourself,
say
Happy.
it again.
Okay, this is awesome.
You can play online with other Happy Jacks listeners.
Yes.
If you don't have, if your group in your town only wants to play D&D, I mean, there are feckin' thousands of you guys, and we have all of the social medias for which you guys to find yourselves
Yes.
and put a game together. Do a one-shot of something you've never done.
Yeah.
Or, a one-shot happens that you've never done. Like, get together and play these games with each other online. Because, kind of probably have at least an interest in the kind of shit we're saying here.
Yep.
And there's, what could go wrong?
Yeah, happyjacks.org/forum or happyjacks.org/discord will get you. And both of those places have, both the forum and the Discord have places for you to find online games and in-person games, but you're more likely to find some people on online games.
Oh, for sure.
So
Yeah, Tomes is like, there are so many good people online with online games, and I was really nervous about it, but...
Tomes is a tome of good games.
yes.
Yeah,
Well, they've also started...
Best was Cat Abe's description of it as we're just sitting here in the Adventurers Club in upholstered seating talking about great adventures, and he just comes in and goes, dude, I've just been to the Congo and I brought back this.
Right? Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they also have like play-by-post games. The Discord has a bunch of
yeah.
different games that are going constantly. It's
There's
very
a-
cool.
I think there's a Mutant Year Zero game going on.
Yeah, and they had a Demigods. I think that one might have ended. But yeah, there's a bunch of cool stuff. So
I really
check it
want to
out.
run a Demigods game so bad.
It's so good.
It's so good.
It's so fun. All right. Yes. DemigodsPBTA.com if you want to go.
I
all right,
should not
next
read
person.
that one. You
Seriously,
should
buy
read
that
this
thing.
All right, I'll read this one here. I've got this one.
You got it.
So, all right.
Oh, cool.
The mailbag. We're moving on. Oh,
Next.
Yay.
got it.
It's good too.
You suck.
Women. Oh, okay. Now I see why you want someone else to read this, Happy. Okay. I should have done the homework. I didn't. Women in gaming from Reverend Dr. Johnson. Oh my.
I see.
Oh my.
Came in from a guy named Dr. Johnson.
Yeah.
Genius.
No.
Make it.
This email is primarily about the
big.
inclusion of women in gaming,
you go.
especially in face-to-face and convention games. It might be best to include it when the podcast episode is hosted by more women than men. Ideally, Stu should be the only man. We failed at that epically.
Yes.
Or it should be
50-50.
women-only episode. But hey,
50-50.
it's your podcast. Do it your way. I think Gina and I, 50% women. We got
I
this.
think
High
I could have
five.
Kimmy's muscles more than 50.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, word.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I know.
Countdown to BlizzCon.
Yeah.
All right.
Seriously, I'm watching her online. The last game she played, I'm going, man, dude, those shoulders look killer.
It was pretty good.
I
I had 4 whole abs. I'm very excited.
Yeah, 4 abs. Only
Rockin'.
7 to go.
And then Adam will like me.
Yeah.
I got an ab and a herniation on the side.
Adam's only got 9 abs in our game. I think you're cool if you
Yeah,
get 9.
if I get 9.
Yeah.
I'll get Lance levels.
A friend of mine who was on the tall ship with me when I was a cook, she was the gunner, and so she got the guns tattooed
Nice.
to her arms. They're these 4-pound guns,
Nice.
so she can actually give you a literal
Like
gun show.
the gun show.
Yeah.
Nice.
Super cool.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I want to buy tickets to that game.
And they were the literal guns that she fired on
Yeah.
the.
What is it
On
about
the
strong
catch.
women that I like so much?
They're
It's just so attractive to me.
All right, so it specifically
Maybe that's not the
says.
best thing to talk about at this moment.
Yeah, maybe.
Sorry, I'm a little drunk.
That's all right. It's
Oh
fine.
yeah, give me some more of that. I'll save you.
There you go.
By more men,
I can
women
kick-
than men. We're
yeah,
good.
I can kick your ass, Jim. It's fine.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, do it your way.
If I step out of bounds.
Yes.
Okay, I see Tappy as being able to really do this, though.
All right. Say this next line in your best Barry White voice. This one's for the ladies.
Yeah. I
right,
totally
that's my
pictured
best.
you
That's
doing
fine.
Oh
it.
yeah.
Oh,
see?
yeah.
This
You
one's
get there.
for the ladies.
There we go. Thank you, Tappy.
Yeah.
The last email I wrote your show took Stu to task for his skepticism regarding the use of crowdfunding by professional game publishers. This time, I came not to blame Stu, but to praise him and the rest of the Happy Jacks crew as well. Well, thank you, and we'll pass on the congratulatory things because he's not here right now.
Yeah.
I returned to gaming in 2006 after many years' absence from the hobby. In this time, since returning, I've been more and more aware of and troubled by the hobby's biggest problem. It's a goddamn sausage fest. Yes, there are lots of women in the hobby. No way, really. There are game designers, GMs, players, and a variety of other roles, but it still seems to be overwhelmingly populated by dudes, many of them who don't seem to know how to act right when confronted with the presence of women at the gaming table, either as players or GMs. Don't even get me started on the assholes who treat the discussion of diversity and inclusion in gaming as yet another example of SJWs ruining the hobby.
Yeah. No, it's
Perfectly put.
It's social justice wizards.
Oh,
Yeah.
is that-
No,
That's
that
what
was
it
good
is.
They don't
because you
get-
almost sounded Dobby-ish there.
yeah,
or
a little
something.
bit, yeah. They did not get a cool voice. I'm not doing
No.
a cool voice for those
No more
assholes.
cool voices.
And they do not get to be
Voices.
called wizards, because that's cool. And
Yeah.
they don't get
Wizards
that.
are
No,
cool.
no, social justice wizards.
Yeah.
Can't they be? Oh, yeah, you're right.
those are the
Those
good
are the
guys.
good guys. You're right. You're right.
Yeah. Or they could be social
Social justice
judges,
warriors.
fighters.
I'm a social justice barbarian.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's the little one I add on my.
Social justice cleric.
social justice bard.
Right.
Playing a bard in the game.
Yeah. I admire and appreciate the efforts of people like Stacy Delafano, who funded the Contessa Gaming Group. I love
Yeah.
them. Link below. And the many women who produce their own games, make game art, run games at conventions, and who do so much hard work finding. Sorry, I lost my place. To make gaming more inclusive and and vital pastime. We all benefit, and they seldom get due credit for their efforts. Still, I worry that it never seems to be enough. The public face of the hobby is still mostly dudes, still mostly white, still mostly straight, still mostly clueless about those demographics, and along with shitty, creepy, or abusive behavior from too many of them, make gaming and gaming conventions unattractive to a lot of people who don't fit that particular mold. We can do better than that. Your podcast is one of the things that makes me hopeful, along with the fact that there are more young women who seem to be engaging in the hobby than ever before. My daughter is one of them. Woohoo!
Nice.
And she is awesome.
Sweet.
So the praise. I love that Happy Jacks features a cast of roughly equal numbers of men and women, both in its regular podcast and on the actual plays. There are a lot of gaming podcasts out there, and I haven't found another one that features so many women contributors. That is not by accident.
High five.
The women in your show never fail to bring more and better insights about gaming, convention play, and other topics. And they've helped me see what the hobby could look like if we could get beyond the grognard dork boy traditions upon which we have rested for so long. Their presence makes the podcast so much better than others that fail the podcasting. I can never say this word. Bechdel test. Thank you. They are not tokens. They're talk about the girly. They're not there to talk about the girly aspects of gaming. The women of Happy Jacks are there to drink, play games, and kick ass. I really appreciate what they bring to the podcast and would like to thank them for their contributions. I also would like to thank Stu for assembling the crew and keeping it going for as long as he has. You are fabulous, and you make my gaming world a better place. Now, thank you. I'm tearing a little. That is something that I've worked really hard with Stu for a really long time, especially like building up the the APs and getting a cast together that is diverse in all different ways.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, Kimmy is definitely the one you should be thanking.
Well, Stu 100%
yeah.
too. 100%.
Yeah, because it's his show and he can say
This
fuck that
organization
shit.
in general.
But he's
Yeah.
a believer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you. Thanks. All right, now I'm going to keep reading. It's going to be fine. I can see everything fine. But that means a lot. Thank you very much. I'm going to make sure Stu, he read it because he put it on this
Yep.
document, so it's there. So now a couple of questions. There are mainly for the women present on this episode. I can't read. Okay. I am sure others may have something to contribute, but let the women speak first. As women in gaming, what do you see as the biggest obstacles to women's participation in the hobby? All right, you have to go first, Gina.
I think that a lot of times that you still see a lot of representation that is like men when you're going to a con, and I think it would be a really interesting sort of for any GM that goes to any con or watches APs to kind of keep track of how many male and female presenting peeps they see or NB. Because I think we still see a very predominantly male table a lot of times. I think even if you asked Happy Jacks GMs who they see at their tables when they go to cons, we would fall on the cis white male side probably. But I think that's when you see yourself self-represented, whether it's through Twitch or YouTube or at a con, you're more likely to feel like that is something that interests or that you could participate in. So I feel like doing what Kimmy's done for Happy Jacks and what other shows have done and showing that those people look like they're fully human people, no matter how they feel like, whether you present yourself as male, female, NB, whatever.
Or even goth.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
goths are people too.
And instead of
You are.
instead
And
of
Gina.
we're not, this is not meant to be shade, but I'm sorry, we're not voice actors, we're not booth babes, we're not like, they're just normal people playing games that hopefully are semi-entertaining and represent the hobby in a healthy way.
Right.
And
Well, I think it's good to have all representation.
Yeah.
It's, that's something I face in the cosplay world a lot. Is like kind of the negative connotations of people who are professionals, like professional cosplayers.
Yeah.
And those people are just as into it. Most of the time, they started. You look at people in Critical Role. Like they didn't start gaming to do Critical Role. Like
No.
they all did gaming beforehand. So they've been incredibly successful, which is amazing and helped the
Yes.
hobby in so many ways.
100%.
And they're voice actors and things like that. But this, I think, for all of us, no matter how we started, like we started in someone's living room.
Yep.
We're all real gamers.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that's honestly one of the things that I still face often. Not as much now, but over the years, this fake geek girl thing.
Yes. And that's not to say that. I just
No.
for
I
sure.
wasn't, and that's
Yep.
just kind of like what brought it to my head.
No,
'Cause,
for sure.
and it's something that I face as a cosplayer, that we face as gamers. Like, you're obviously just doing that because a guy got you into that. It's like, no,
Right.
actually,
Or you're looking for attention.
Right.
you're gaming so you can attract a husband. I'm like, I got one. He doesn't like gaming, so I'm here. He's up in the
Yeah.
hotel room, like writing. So it's like, the opposite. I think the stereotype and the kind of expectation that women are only into these type of hobbies to please men is a big problem.
Well, the male-centric thing all the way around.
Exactly.
It's kind of no different than the obstacles women face in real life. That,
Absolutely.
like, if you're a sporty, presenting female person, like, somebody might assume you're only into that because your partner is, or
Yeah.
something like
Or you're
that.
vain. You
That
wanna
you're
look
not-
good all the time. That's the only
that
reason.
you're not into sports, you're not into football, or you're not into basketball because you could, it's the whole gender role bullshit.
Yeah.
So I think those are the obstacles. It doesn't mean we can't overcome them and aren't overcoming them.
Yeah.
Like all the time.
Yeah, people assuming that we're inauthentic
Yeah.
simply because of who we are is difficult. And the fact that when we sit down at a table, we have to prove ourselves. Like I've had people come and sit down at my table. I've talked about this a lot of times, you know, when I'm GMing at cons, and they don't know who I am. They don't know who Happy Jacks is. They just signed up for a game, and they sit down, and they're like, oh, okay. Right. And you can just see their face.
Yeah, they're like, oh, your tits are going to get in the way of playing the game.
Yeah, there's just like this
How do you roll
awkwardness.
that?
I get excited when the GM's female.
Right. It's
I get really happy and excited when the GM's female. And, you know, coming from a complete cis male, and I'm going to go this to all the other guys that are listening to this. I'm going to tell you a secret about how to get along with women and how to be just a good person in general. They're people like everybody else.
what?
If you just
Right?
treat them like people, everything will be cool. And really, that's just the whole secret to life in general. If you just
Yep.
treat everyone like people or like you would like to be treated, then everything's going to be cool.
There's a rule like that.
There is a rule like that. It's golden.
I forget.
But no, seriously, man, there's no reason to be intimidated by women. There's no reason to be afraid of women. They're just people.
And don't be.
All right, I'm a little intimidated by you, Kim.
And the
okay.
the flip
Yeah.
side, the flip
hard at
side of
that.
this is don't do the rescuing princess thing. Like, don't feel like you have to. I know it comes from a place of kindness sometimes, but don't feel like you have to explain, like, or that you have to save the character that the female's playing because all of a sudden she's fucked or something like that.
And don't get me wrong, man. I fall into these tropes myself every once in a while, and I have to catch myself. And I look towards the women in my life to really sort of point it out, because sometimes I will sort of mansplain things, and you know, it's a struggle for me. And I'm probably thinking that it's a struggle for a lot of guys to sort of just be normal towards women. But seriously, man, you're going to have so much more success in life in general if you just treat everybody, regardless of gender, race, whatever, just like people. You're just going to get further in life and enjoy life more. Period.
Yeah, not to get super PSA-y, except I totally am. But that's just I think that's the secret overall, because like, is just to try to recognize when you're applying gender roles to anything, and that goes for women to men, men to men, you know, whatever. Because like, when's the last time somebody legitimately was like, Jim, are you okay? Do you need, you know, because it's like, no, he's fine, you know? And it's like, I think we just have to treat each other not only at the table or at a con, but in life as just more fully human. Like, we're
Absolutely.
human.
Yeah,
You know?
and I think that's sort of the direction, hopefully, that society is going. And but really, dude, if it's a female GM, female player, just treat them as a player. Just treat them as a player. Just treat them as somebody that's telling a story with you, that's there to have fun with you in the same way that you're having fun. There's no difference in the way that that they're generally going to enjoy a game versus the way you're going to enjoy a game.
Yeah.
Maybe in play style, maybe a difference, but there's not going to be a gender difference. And I one of the things that I do, because as my role in Strategicon is that not only do I want to create a safe space for everybody, regardless of who they are, whether they're transgender, whether they're whatever their orientation is, their sexuality, race, whatever it is, I want to create a space where they feel comfortable running it or playing in the game. And I tolerate zero shit about that, 100%. And there have been some people that are obviously transgender at the con that have gotten some hazards or some shit thrown on them. That, you know, one of the reasons why I wanted to become a contributing member and a member of the board is to make changes in that and to make sure that the structure of our community is inclusive, because that is what I love about gaming. Anybody can do it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I want everybody that wants to do it and to be able to enjoy it and have fun doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We sit down at the we sit down at the table to role play other
Yeah.
people. So who you are
Yeah.
shouldn't matter when you're sitting down at the table.
Absolutely. One of the things I love about the hobby.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, my close friends are mostly women. My best man when I got married was a woman. And so my gaming group is mostly women. And I love my gaming group. They're fucking rad.
Yeah.
I see.
Try role playing with people that are in touch with their emotions. It's fucking awesome.
So good. And yeah, I mean, I do see my friends getting flack for who they are or what they look like. I like very, very, very close friends who are cosplayers or costumers, and some of them decided to do an actual play dressed in their costumes as their characters, because they do pictures of themselves as elves and fairies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it was great. It was awesome. I had a great time. The game was rad, but still, people decided to give them flack because they happen to be like pretty model girls.
Yeah.
It's like there's nothing fake about these people.
No, that's shitty too.
You know?
Yeah.
And
It's
it's
the same kind of-
fucking dumb. And so yeah, it's it's weird to me. And again, I know I'm in a bubble here in Los Angeles with my specific group of friends who are all like really, really nerdy and weird. That it's like I when someone talks about gaming as a sausage fest, I'm like, that is contrary to my experience. But I understand my experience is unique.
Yes.
Yes.
And I want everybody to have my experience, or better. I mean, you can get way, way better. But we were talking about, having these great proactive players who are mostly women or who are people of color, and it's awesome playing with these people. It's awesome the diversity, like Jim was saying before, of where you come from. Like, when you come to the table, you don't only bring your character, you bring who you are.
Yeah.
And who you are helps interpret that character. And I find it very interesting to see how different people interpretate the exact same character sheet.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons I love com games.
Fascinating.
It's really fascinating. And so it's great to have more and different people to play with. It just is.
Yeah,
I think that would be super cool to see on a one-shot Saturday, like the same scenario run with
multiple
just
times.
Yeah.
I think what you're talking about, and like I've experienced that, and like, okay, even in LA, like when I started going to Strategicon years and years ago now, like there were not as many women, and that's one of the things that's given me like hope, and like over the years, like going now as a woman is worlds difference than when I first started going.
I remember that.
Yeah. And it's just like so, it's still not 50-50, but there's so many more women now.
I'll give you some stats if you want to know.
Absolutely. I'd love that.
32% of our population
Yeah.
is
You're
Fantastic. I actually was
32.
32%.
I was
That's
surprised
rad.
we didn't have that as an optional response on the survey.
Yeah.
Because that would be cool. Like, you don't have to, but how would you like to be identified? You know?
Across the board in the convention, 32%
That's
of volunteers
good.
and attendees
That's
are
fantastic.
female.
That's fantastic.
That's
and
great.
I want to bring that up to 50% or 51%, to be honest, to actually just sort of
like
reflect the
represented
population.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that the current management of this convention, literally the board is part female, part male.
That's awesome.
And there are a lot of different, African American, Latino, white. There's a lot of different representation on the board, and that was done on purpose.
Yeah, I've been seeing that also. That has also happened with comic conventions that I go to. Like, I think, and this kind of like segues into the next question: how can men help women participate in the hobby? Which is a very interesting question, because a lot of times, it's put on women to make more women join the hobby.
Which pisses me off, because I think that straight heterosexual white males are the ones that need to spearhead change.
Well, as the dominant group in the hobby,
exactly.
which is not, and it may sound like we're dogging on them. We're not.
Nope.
No. Each those people are all individual, and for my 2 cents, for the majority, I have a bunch of amazing heterosexual white male friends who are my best friends in the world.
Yeah.
I just want to say real quick, everybody in Britain right now is laughing really hard to say dogging on men.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I'm super Californian, so for me, that means shitting on them.
Yeah.
So
in England means something else.
something sexual that I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to
Sounds
look
good.
that up before GNX. I totally lost my train of thought. God damn it, Tabby. I was
Where's
like
the
super
goddamn
eloquent
line?
and
I
doing
know.
well.
I got a thing.
We're out of white. Okay, go ahead, Gina.
I think
So little.
this is something I feel like I learned. This is Reverend Dr. Johnson. I am going to preach for a second because I just went to Big Bad Con. Amen. And I saw something, and I experienced something like that's been growing at that con year on year, and I've seen it at Strategicon, but it's the Bay Area. It was a very small con when I started going. It was like 200, 250 people. It was probably 700 people this year. But what I think it is too is you have to, this echoes something Jim said, you have to make it a safe environment for everybody. Because it's not just on straight cis males. It's not, just on women to get women in there. It's additionally, there are gamers out there of every ethnicity,
Every
race,
ilk.
gender identification, sexuality, whatever. We just have to make it a very safe and accepting is a shitty word. An environment that we can all be. I just keep saying
Not
this
judgmental.
this fully human, like that we can be in whoever you are, however you are, whenever you are. And I think the more we do that, it just starts to represent the people that are out there. And there were things that I felt and saw at this con that I've never felt before that made me realize that that's not something you just do at a con, Jim, like you're saying. That is fucking amazing to consider those aspects and want everybody to feel like they're in an environment that's safe and where they can do the shit they want to do. And you can carry that shit outside of the game, though.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think very specific things. One of the things, like one of the reasons Stu is my best friend is because he's put up with having women on this podcast for a really long time. And I say put up with because we've gotten shit for it from the beginning.
Yeah, from the beginning.
Yes. Like we've gotten emails that some of they were never read, but like, these girls, they're kind of so, and he has always called bullshit on that. And he's always been like, no, they're part of our thing.
Yeah.
They are, you don't have Happy Jacks without them.
Yeah.
And he has taken flack for that. And that is an excellent example of how, men and anyone who's kind of in a place of privilege can stand up for other people. Because that is like led to, so many things because of the amazing things that women have done in here, people of color. So that's one of the reasons we actively want diversity because, we get great things from these great people and we get flack for it. I mean, we still get emails sometimes like
It's true.
questioning different things, questioning the fact that so many women are on here, questioning different, our diversity in some ways and people missing, the old days of gaming and things like that, which I understand nostalgia. Definitely. I'm getting to the age where, God damn, do I understand nostalgia. But, there is not a finite amount of room in this hobby.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah,
Absolutely not.
and I'm stealing this from Drone in the chat room, so thank you, Drone. That was a fabulous way of phrasing it. Like more people joining this hobby does not mean there's less room for you.
Right.
Nope.
So that's the best thing you can do is amplify the voices of women and other people in gaming. Retweet their stuff, whatever your thing is. Stu is amazing enough to give us voice on this podcast.
Yep.
I'll tell you right now, dude, if something is awesome, it's awesome. It doesn't matter who it comes from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it should be recognized as that. And that I'm going to tell you right now unequivocally that my life is better for the addition of women in my role-playing hobby than it would be otherwise. Unequivocally.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, what can men do to help women participate in the hobby? Actively invite them to your games, like what Jim was saying. Actively invite them into your games.
Yeah.
So
and not just as the girlfriend.
In my out of Happy Jack's gaming group, there's a married couple, and in the Traveler game, the husband he works in computer games, and so he was going through basically a launch of a game, and so he wasn't able to participate that much, but his wife was able to a lot. And then the next game that was switched, where he had more downtime and she had less time because she's a professional artist. And but what was funny is he also plays with. He switched companies. He also plays with role plays with his company, with the other like senior people in his company.
Right.
But none of them have women in their group. So he was explaining to them, I was running an Apocalypse World game while I was living in my Mad Max nowhere thing through satellite internet because I have to game. I can't not. And so he was trying to explain to them how the game was working. And Apocalypse World specifically has sex moves.
Yes.
But in that game, there were 2 guys, 3 women, and 1 intersex woman. And he was trying to explain to them like how the game happened, and they were flabbergasted. And it's like Jim said a while ago, oh my God, people who are in touch with their emotions.
Yeah.
So you have this very emotional game, which is, these story games. Very, very much the more in touch you are with who you are, etc., the more you can bring to the table. But also just culturally, that it's very different. Like women culturally are different than men, not physically, obviously.
No, it's just their genders.
Right.
Yes.
Physically, yes, but I mean, like,
taught. Yeah.
exactly. And so, like, there are things like
Not to downplay any of the differences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'cause the differences are great too.
right. When it comes to romance novels, 95% of the people who read romance novels are women. About 90 to 95% of people who write romance novels are women.
Yeah.
True crime, same thing. Like 95% of people who read true crime are women. So if you want an investigation game,
Yeah.
the more women you have in there, the better. If you want to have a romance or a sexy game, the more women in the better. Not because they're women and you think they're hot, but because culturally more of them are exposed to that type of
Yeah.
entertainment. And so we were talking about it. He was talking to me. He's like, I don't understand the differences. And I was trying to think of it. And his wife came in the kitchen and was like, oh, it's women.
Yeah.
We have, it's mostly women in this game. We are now the dominant group.
Yes.
So the game is more like the type of culture that we're from instead of the type of culture
One of
that
the
you're from.
big buttons for me as far as role-playing games, and one of the things that attracted me to the hobby initially and continues to attract me to the hobby is the fact that role-playing games allow you the opportunity to explore parts of yourself and emotionality and certain things about your life or points of view that maybe are not really aligned with the way that you live your life. Okay, so when you start exploring those different aspects of yourself, whether they be negative or positive aspects, whatever they are, when you expose those to other people, that's when you really start gaining some understanding about those things. So the emotional catharsis of RPGs is actually enhanced by the ability to expose those emotions or those aspects of yourself to a more diverse group of people, because you'll have a better understanding of what you're throwing out, because what bounces back is going to be different.
Yeah.
So, if you love role-playing games because you sometimes get to play the villain, sometimes get to play the hero, sometimes get to play the thing that you really usually aren't, when you're role-playing those things with a more diverse group of people, you're going to get a lot more feedback on those things, and ultimately you're going to learn something more about yourself.
Yeah.
And RPGs are a very personal thing, and they're fantastic that way because you're exposing parts of your emotions, or exposing parts of yourself, or adding elements of yourself that are generally usually kind of hidden. But when you give out that kind of vulnerability, who else can you think of to really be able to react to that kind of vulnerability as a male than somebody who's actually more accustomed to dealing with their own vulnerability?
Dude, sometimes I just want to smash things with a hammer.
And sometimes you just want to smash things with a hammer.
Sometimes
which
you
is
do.
great.
Well,
That's
yeah,
like
I mean,
50% of my characters.
I know, right?
That's one thing I love about
Team
your
Beat
character.
Stick, dude.
You're
the
not
best thing,
just
you-
like soft
no,
and
the
squishy.
best
You're
thing
the
ever.
leader of Team Beats.
like
Yeah.
Just so to
hiding
speak.
behind Kimmy's character is the best thing ever. That is, you need
But
to
I
watch
know what
Vault
you're
818.
saying.
Yeah. Just like all.
If somebody loves your hobby, you should be your proclivity should be to love them.
Yes.
That's
That's
kind of what my dealio was about this.
Yeah.
Did you?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, in addition, because I think that's great. Invite people who identify as females or NB or whatever to your table. Invite different people to your table, like that aren't the same as you. But I was going to say, just be welcoming. Go
Yeah.
to fucking cons in your neighborhood and where you're from. Go to your local cons. It's not just about going to, Strategic Con or Big Bad Con, though we would love to see you. But go to your local cons and be welcoming. Get excited when these people sit down at your table that you don't know who are at your table, and riff on that experience. And I guarantee you will grow your tribe.
Absolutely.
Your tribal,
Yeah.
and it'll make everything all better.
And support diverse creators.
Yes.
Like, because a lot of people live, like we're lucky to be in LA. There's a lot of people who live, different places where there's not a con around. I like Gina was saying earlier,
Yeah.
seeing like on Twitch or YouTube or whatever, like seeing women playing in Critical Role has been really
Yeah.
important for a lot of
Yep.
people.
You can see her, you
So-
can be her.
Yeah, exactly. So seeing people of color playing, seeing people,
Yep.
playing these games suddenly has opened up the hobby for so many new people. So if, get those voices amplified. Like,
Yep.
if there's a show you really like, especially if it's ours,
Yeah.
let other people know about it. Tune in. Like, if, if there's a creator who writes amazing, adventure paths that you love, support them on Patreon. Do these things that help these different groups who are minorities still in the community, be represented,
Yep.
continue to participate in them. And that's like the biggest thing you can do.
To speak to the to
Here, I
the
know Tappy
people that
had a
might-
thing just a second
Go
ago.
for it.
Oh,
Tappy.
to
Yeah.
play with other Happy Jacks listeners.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just do that.
Yeah.
That's
We
a great
are
thing because,
A growing, diverse community.
Yeah. Well, and like was said before,
Yeah.
there's always it's typically half women, if not more, and
That's
we
the
have
quota.
a very diverse,
Very specific.
We have a very very diverse group. So other Happy Jacks listeners are probably open to more diversity.
Yeah.
But
So
if you limit
you
can.
yourself to the only thing that you really look for is somebody who loves the hobby,
Yeah.
that's really the only thing you need to look for is somebody who loves the hobby, because that's the commonality. Look for the commonalities and stick to the commonalities.
Yeah.
The differences are irrelevant. We're all people, and we all
Yep.
love doing things together. So stick to those things.
Yep.
Why concentrate on negative energy? It's
Yeah.
just pointless.
Last part of this, I know we've been talking about this for a while, but this is a very interesting conversation. I feel like
This
it's
is
been
like
great.
my favorite letter, and
It's great.
I love this letter.
It made me
Thank
cry.
you.
It's a good letter.
I know.
Can you offer up any horror stories illustrating the problems that limit women's inclusion in gaming and what not to do?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Damn. Okay.
yeah, I'm just gonna sit back
I know.
because
I'm gonna let you guys talk.
I'm gonna let you talk.
Word.
Here's what I'm going to say without getting super specific, because I can get specific.
Yeah.
Is that if you think something is happening that's kind of shitty, it probably is. So react. Don't just make it be on that one person at the table who is maybe uncomfortable reacting to whatever tone or shitty stuff is happening at the table, whether it's rapey or misogynistic or whatever it is. If you twig something is going on, like, help us call it out, because sadly, because of gender roles, I think a lot of times we approach those situations where we try not to make too many waves,
Yeah.
and we try to blend in, and so we're not gonna sit there and necessarily call it out. But I think that makes it a better environment for everybody, and not just women too.
Yeah. I mean, that's 100%. I mean, I've got horror stories.
Yeah.
I've been talked down to at cons. I've been told to go away at cons. I've had people walk away from and ignore me at cons. I've been groped at cons. Like, I've had awful things happen. I don't want to, I don't really want to go into specifics on a podcast. But, all the awful, and the thing is like, my stories are mild compared to some of the ones that my friends have gone through. Like, someone reaching over and grabbing my ass while I'm walking by is mild, which is awful. But
Right.
like on the spectrum, of what my friends have experienced at different conventions.
I've seen it happen.
Yeah, and
Seen it happen.
yeah,
And I saw a guy grab a girl's ass in the vendor room,
yeah,
and I grabbed him by the ear and escorted him out and took his badge.
very nice.
Very 1920s of you, and I love that.
Yeah. Well, as that's not even 1920s. Like, as someone who runs the convention,
Yeah.
like having, that's one of the big things that I've seen change Comic-Cons recently is they've started these big banners posting what cosplay is not consent.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm dressed as as Wonder Woman in what's basically a one-piece bathing suit type coverage, like that doesn't mean mean that I'm here for
Right.
you to touch. Like, I am not part of the convention. Like, I'm a fan showing my fandom in another way. So, I mean, there's awful things. Don't do those things. Like, and like Gina was saying, like, it's hard as the minority group for us sometimes to speak out because it's already intimidating to even. I'm not a person who's intimidated easily.
This is true.
This is true, and I've worked my whole life to overcome that.
Yeah.
So, but still, coming and sitting down at a convention game with people I don't know can be frightening and intimidating.
And part of it is making, as sucky gender roles have told us, making other people comfortable. So not protesting, not because you're not strong enough to protest or because you are not confident enough,
Right.
but not wanting to make other people at the table uncomfortable.
Right, and
so
well-
that you kind of suck it up.
Right. Well, and it's also like, I'm already not wanted here. If
Yeah.
I make a problem,
Yep.
I'm going to be validating all their fears about women in gaming.
Exactly.
Because suddenly, you know, as the minority person at the table, and by minority, I mean like the minority of the population, not a person of color. But like, you feel in many ways like you are representing your group, which is women, in that hobby. And it's even, you know, more difficult for people of color and things like that who have, like, you are even a smaller portion. You know, you feel like you're represented, so you want to do the best job you can. You don't want to cause a problem because then, you know, then I'm showing them that they're right by not wanting women at their table because I'm being a problem.
You know what? I'm going to ask you guys a question.
Okay.
And I'm going, what could we do as convention runners to improve the situation for women at the convention?
Yeah. Well, I want to. That's a fantastic question.
Yeah.
And we're going to get there in just a second. But I do want to finish this
Yeah.
particular piece real quick. But like, it's. I don't want to say scary because I'm not. I mean, I have rarely been in fear of my actual physical safety. I will not say it's never happened at a gaming convention. Or a comic convention.
Yep.
But it's not always about that. There are other kinds of fear that you're going to let yourself down, fear that you're going to let the table down, fear that you're going to, you know, misrepresent your group. That can all be problems. And so having an ally at the table, having someone who's there who will also step up. Like, don't leave it on that person who's already outnumbered at the table to stand up for themselves, even though, yes, I'm in favor of women speaking up and defending themselves. Do it. But also, like, hey, that's sort of a sleazy, like, I'm uncomfortable with this. Like, if you say, hey, I'm uncomfortable with this before the woman has to, or, you know, the person of color or any other group, like, that's a big deal. And it, like, don't take, well, that's what my character would do as, like, a bullshit excuse for excusing bullshit behavior. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, I don't want to play with your character if that's what your character would do. Why the fuck are you being that character? Like, don't be that. So, I don't know. That was sort of my little rant.
I was going to say one last thing, but I want to let you, did you have something?
Well,
Yeah,
I
please.
mean, I wanted to echo that with, like, if you're a guy at the table, you don't even, like, along with making sure that people don't fuck with other women at the table, to also just allow space for them to exist.
Yeah.
You know, like, be quiet when you could say something because you're the one who isn't going to interrupt them.
Or, and that's a good dovetail to what I was going to say, this is probably the most common thing because all those other things happen. All those other kind of things that are creepier and, like, that we don't necessarily want to discuss right now. But the
I mean,
thing,
you can
no,
absolutely, but
this
I
will
don't.
be the thing that
I'm just not comfortable, like, talking about my violations.
because all that shit happens, and it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what it's a position of power and privilege and a position of not. But what I was going to say, what seems to happen to me most often that people don't recognize is Stu and I have talked about this a ton, and I've talked about it with my friends who present mail. Is girl voice, where you'll say a thing and no one hears it, and one of the dudes at the table says it, and everybody goes, "Oh my god, that's the best idea!" And I've seen that. That's fucking happened on camera, people. Like, I'm looking at the camera. That happens all the time, and it's not like Kimmy and I are not like cautious, quiet, timid speakers. And it will totally, that's been my whole life, where you say a funny thing and someone repeats it and they're the one that said it.
Yeah.
Right.
But you say an idea in a game and everyone's like, doesn't hear it until the dude at the table says it. And then you're like, I totally just said that 60 seconds ago. Yeah.
Great
So that's a cool
WTF
thing.
moment.
That's
Yeah.
a cool thing. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. I have no idea what it is. It probably is some sociological.
It's a thing in real life too.
or-
Like
yeah.
that's happened with me at so many staff meetings, like
Yeah.
at my school.
No, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
work all the time.
Can I
Yeah.
just say, if you're a guy at the table, call that out if you see it,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
if a woman at the table says something and nobody responds to it, you can repeat it and give them credit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds like what Gina said a minute ago.
Yeah.
Thanks for saying that, Gina. Yes.
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
What did she say?
No.
Give credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
I mean,
It doesn't even go into gender
I
as
think
much as
it's-
like going, somebody has a great idea, let them have the great idea.
I think it's an unconscious, like, these are the people at the table I'm more in tune to, like, hear
It's a
stuff.
societal norm.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not just
Exactly.
something with gaming. Like it's
Yeah.
something that
and
happens
it's
kind
not
of
people
across the
trying to
board.
be dicks or anything like that. It's
Yeah.
sometimes it might be, but it's mostly a societal norm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that most of this shit is just people just going through their programming and not
Yeah, and we're
actually
gonna-
trying to be dicks.
Yeah.
I think
we're
like
gonna
50%
break
of it
this
is.
Yeah.
shit down.
Because that
yeah.
makes me
We're totally
feel
gonna
like
break
I
it
could
down.
actually live in
The
this
people
world.
who
and-
grab
Yeah.
my ass, that's totally not just people like societal
No.
norm.
Yeah, they need that.
Where in the world will you come up with the idea that I can touch somebody else's person and be cool? I just don't get that.
I know what this person will like.
Yes.
They're-
That's not true ever.
I just don't get it,
No.
man.
And I wish I could say, and I'd say that it was the minority of people, but it's happened to me enough times in enough situations in my life that I can say that that's not,
I know.
unfortunately. And it's not even happened one time at a gaming convention.
It's
And I won't even talk about fucking cosplay. Like, when I'm dressed
Right?
up, like, oh my God. So I do want to get back
That's
to
shitty.
Jim's awesome question, which is
Yeah.
what can, events and organizations do to help?
Oh, good.
So I think number one, I think something awesome, and I mentioned this already, is comic conventions have started posting, rules.
Community
Like,
standards.
Yeah, community
Yeah.
standards. Like this, you will lose
Yeah.
your badge and be escorted from the premises if
And
you do
fucking
this.
mean it
Yeah.
when you do that.
Like what you did,
Yeah.
but have it
Yeah.
posted. Like
I-
if you are, and you don't even have to specify like women or anything, because like cosplayers in general, like
Yep.
that applies to everybody. There are a lot of, my male cosplay friends who dress, as characters that don't have any shirts on and things like that, and they also get harassed by women. So it's not even something that's just, a female or people who present as female problem. Like we have a society problem of, hey, you're, XYZ. I think it's okay for me to touch you because of whatever reason.
I cannot describe to you how many times I have been touched at fair at
Right.
Rogues Reef.
No, I've seen it.
I bet.
And I was a terrible ally. I did not, although I did come to your rescue a couple times. I'd be
Yes.
like, hey, we're supposed to do this thing right now, right? And like pull that bullshit. But yeah, so I mean, having community standards clearly
Shitty.
posted so that when people are shitty, there's something to point to. So it's not like, hey, this is just a judgment call for whoever I'm talking to. I'm like, no, that guy touched me, he's out. Or
Yes.
she touched me,
Yes.
she's out.
I'm telling you
It doesn't
100%
care-
right now.
Yeah.
I am hungry to kick people out for doing that shit. It makes me horrifically happy, and there's a bunch of people on the board with me
Right.
that are giddy about the idea of booting somebody for
Right.
that crap.
Yeah.
Because
But don't do it.
holy crap, we just don't want those people there.
Right.
We
Yeah.
just don't.
And having it
real bad.
yeah, having it posted and having it clear on like a big banner or something
Yep.
when people first walk in, it makes people who are victims of that brave enough to say, hey, this really is against the rule. This isn't me just being
We
a
left it
stuck-up
very
snob.
general, and we said,
Yeah.
if you obstruct somebody from having their fun here,
Right.
you're out.
Right. But sometimes having it more specific, I mean,
Yes.
you need
Yeah.
that general one too,
Yes.
but adding those specific
Yeah.
things like touching someone, things
Yeah.
like that makes me
Yep.
brave. Because I'm like, oh, well, like, I don't want to like cause a problem. Like, it's already weird enough for me to be here. Like,
Yeah.
I'm lucky I have a gigantic, contingent of people I know at
Yeah.
Strategicon. So I feel incredibly safe there.
Right.
And
But-
at this point, like, this many years later, like, if my first couple years that it happened, I mean, when it happens, like, I didn't, years ago now, I felt uncomfortable. I told a couple of people who were friends, they were like, God, that guy's an asshole. I'll buy you a drink and make you feel better. And okay, great.
Yep.
But now it's a very different environment. The vibe is very different.
Yes.
And like at this point, like I would be brave enough just to be like, hey, asshole, don't fucking touch me. Hey, Jim, or whoever, or
You
GM.
know that I would 100% have your back.
I do
The
think
back of
spell,
anybody.
it out though.
Yeah.
I don't think
because
there's
I've done it
anything wrong
before.
with that.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing is, if you just look at it from a business point of view,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we want to make this place as accessible as possible to get as many attendees as we can into the space.
Right.
Which means that we need to make sure that everybody that comes here feels okay with being here.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just look at it from the bare bones business point of view, it's in our best interest to make sure that people that harass and people that will stop people from coming
Yep.
back to this convention being there. I'd rather get rid of one asshole and make sure that 5 or 6 other people make sure that they come back
Right.
because that asshole isn't there. I'm perfectly happy to ban that guy for life.
Yeah.
And we've done it.
Yeah. And that's true of streaming communities. That's true of every convention. That's true of online forums. That's true of literally any space where multiple people are interacting in cyberspace or in the real world. Like having those community guidelines where are clearly laid out that everyone is valid and everyone's important and these are the things we do not accept as a community is pivotal and important.
Yeah.
But
I know.
Well, and also, most guys don't realize how important that is.
Yeah.
Because, well, everybody is, of course. Well, because you do.
Yeah. 'Cause-
And, Right. And it's not bad that you do, just everybody should also feel that way.
you know, if you're afraid of people pointing out that you're a harasser all the time, if people can point anybody out, that probably means that you're a jerk.
Yeah.
You know how I stem that? I don't act like an asshole towards women, and I feel pretty safe. The thing about it is that if you're at a location that's running an event and you don't feel like they're really looking out for your best interests and for making sure that you're comfortable there, then maybe you need to find another place to go.
And that's the hard thing as women, is because there are so many conventions and so many spaces online and offline that don't make you feel safe. So then you are left with no options.
What pisses me off is that the nerd community is already sort of a persecuted community as it stands.
We used to be. We kind of run the world now.
We sort of fall into our own.
Yeah.
But I'm just going back to the 90s and 80s when we were,
Right.
we ruled the world.
Rule
We were
the
awesome.
world.
Well, that was when we were annoying.
Yeah. But,
Yeah.
if you're part of a persecuted community or a part of a marginalized community, what the hell are you doing trying to marginalize other people? You're already there, man. It's never made sense to me
Dude,
whatsoever.
It's Lord of the fucking Flies.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the
So-
domino effect. It's like, well, if we're, we can be dominant in this one area, we don't want to make space for other people.
That was my shocking revelation when I first started gaming. I was like, seriously, there are stratas for like gamers?
Yeah.
I'm just
But there
telling you,
were.
man.
It's
If you
getting
don't
better,
want
though.
It is
Gina in your
absolutely getting
RPG game, you're fucking drunk.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah. But again, like seeing that representation. And actually,
Yes.
that's one of the things, like this email, but we've also received like a lot of emails over the years. Some of them we've read online, some of we haven't, about, different people who've seen people representing, like who represent their communities on our APs and on the podcast. And that's what it is. And I work with kids. I know what I see it when they're developing. Like if they see people that they can relate to and they can identify with in things like sciences and music and all these things, that inspires them and makes them feel like it's possible.
If you can see them, you can be them. It's a very
Exactly.
important
It's
thing.
100% a thing.
It's extremely important.
Yeah.
When you're grown ass
In
adults.
media in general.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been pimping the shit out of Orcon though. Just so you know.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm hoping we have a
All right.
To get your
I want
pimp
to see.
suit.
okay, cool.
Oh God,
Oh
that's
my
the best
God.
way to end the.
Your badge is going to read
Portuguese.
RPG Pimp. Next.
Oh,
Thank you for the
man.
very thought-provoking email,
A great email.
Reverend Dr.
Yeah.
Johnson.
Thank you,
I know.
sir.
Yeah, so thanks for your efforts. You are the best. Sincerely,
Yeah.
Reverend Dr. Johnson. P.S. The name is because I got an online ordination when I finished my PhD. Thanks, Universal Life Church.
Nice.
So
Very
did I,
nice.
and I've performed 3 weddings.
Nice.
Really?
PPS. More
I married
information
Keith
about.
and Urs. I married Will. I
Maybe
did 4.
if I get married again, maybe I'll have to hook you up.
Do it. I got the credentials, Joe.
Oh my God, you should have Jim and Stu Co. That'd be
that'd
amazing.
be awesome.
Stu has that shit too.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
That'd be crazy.
Universal Love Church. Actually, my church is legitimately named the Church of the Funkadelic Shazam.
Nice. All right, so let's continue with the.
Funkadelic.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought you said fuckadelic. And I
PPS.
go, whoa!
PPS, more information about Contessa can be found here.
Yeah.
www.contessa.rocks.
I've played in Contessa games
So
several times.
good. And they're a fantastic, you can find them on Twitter, you can find them a bunch of amazing
If
places.
you don't know about Contessa, it's all games run by women,
Yeah.
but men are encouraged to participate
Yeah.
as players.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
So anybody can participate. It is
Yeah.
fantastic online con. Look for it online.
Yeah, it's
really great.
super great, and it's about like empowering more women to be GMs, which is something I'm very passionate about, and I love that community. PPPS, Motive Sin was a masterpiece. I loved it so much. I listened twice. Holy shit! And I don't even play that game.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten through all of Motive Sin.
No, it's like 3 years a
either.
game, man.
It's like, whoa. What, like 70 games?
Something. It was a
It's a
lot.
lot.
I just want your spare time, bro. What I want.
He probably has a
But
computer.
yes, Motive
Yeah.
Sin was a masterpiece.
It was
This is
super
true.
fun.
Yeah.
And then PPPPS, drink.
Drink.
I'm sorry.
You can drink
I'm out
that
of
one.
wine.
Way
Drink the
too long.
dregs.
I had one drop of my wine left. All
Have a
right.
squidge.
Thank you. That was a fantastic conversation, you guys.
Wasn't it?
Yeah,
I really
it really
appreciate
was.
that.
That is a
too.
great, that's a good one.
It's a good
And
group to have.
and again,
I
you know,
love gamers.
I do want to just before we move on to the next email, I do want to say encouraging new groups to enter the hobby is not saying that the current groups in the hobby are bad or in any way, because I know that there are times where we do have an amazing group of white male, straight male listeners. Like, this is not saying you are negative or you are
Nope.
bad in any way. It's saying that the community is better for having more people. And again, I'm going to steal from Drone, and there's not a finite amount of space in this community.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
whatever your gaming group looks like, whatever you want your gaming group to look like other great gaming groups can look completely different, and that's fan-fucking-tastic.
Plus is by definition positive.
Exactly. All right.
Yep.
Player, yeah, I like that. I'm going to put that in my classroom. I like that.
Yeah.
Player pride.
I mean, you can add a negative, but we're going to ignore it.
Yeah.
Actually,
Let's do it.
two negatives.
Oh my God, stop. The kids aren't even going to read it once, so it'll just be on the board. It'll make me feel better.
I'm going to
No,
stand
no,
by
it's
my
good. You
first
should do
word.
that.
There you go.
Okay, so
No,
All
no,
right,
it's good.
Player
One of y'all has
pride.
to read.
Costa from Adelaide.
Not it.
Who's going to read? You are?
I'm so drunk.
Oh, sorry.
All right.
Make it as big as little as
There we
you
go.
want.
There we go.
There you go.
Player Pride Costa from Adelaide. G'day, Happy Jacks folk.
G'day.
Costa here from Adelaide again. Figured it's high time to send you guys a letter again, hoping that this time I don't make too many people sad with stories of my gaming past. Just wanted to say that I am loving the new actual play stream with ShadowCon and One Shot Saturdays. Let's see whole new systems run by GMs who are able to explain it to new players. Definitely makes it a lot easier for me to learn new systems as I struggle with reading mountains of text at one time. Damn you, Shadowrun for World of Darkness. I love you both, but by gods, do I have the energy? Do I have the energy to read all of you? No.
Oh, you know what's great? What you need to do is read it while you do cardio. And then you can be in awesome shape, because the hours and hours and hours you have to go through Shadow and 5th edition, and I know this.
I'll leave that to Caddy, but I do not promote exercise in any way.
I think I knew one of the words in that sentence.
What's that?
Cardio.
Oh, yeah.
Explain cardio.
Is that anything like Cardi B? She's got a...
Love
Yes.
Cardi B.
Actually, it's
Awesome.
what Cardi B does.
All right.
now
we
that she's
order-
back from home, baby.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I get it now. Cool.
Something I have been musing on recently, the warm, giddy feeling of seeing your medium grow around you. I am predominantly a Call of Cthulhu keeper and have shown it off in many a player.
Oh.
Awesome.
Oh,
Right.
my. Wow.
To my shock, a lot of people are quite receptive to the game, and many have shown an interest in wanting to run the game themselves. It fills me with the insane level of euphoria when it happens, and I thought it should be something more people should enjoy.
Insane being the operative word.
Indeed, because you lose sanity as you run it. This leads me to a question for all of you. Do any of you have a moment that sticks out to you of great pride to see your players going off and run games, taking inspiration off of you? Or maybe you have a giddy feeling to see them learning something from your table. Take a drink. Shall be writing in more soon, hopefully, when knew that starting a small business would leave me with no time to sit down and write emails to you all, a bunch of drunk bastards on the other side of the
Right
world.
on for starting a small business.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
Congrats
Yeah.
to you, man. P.S.
I've done that too
My
many
love for
times.
Call of
I'm bad
Cthulhu
at
has
it.
led me to being asked to run table of it at PAX Melbourne, which is freaking awesome. Just a few more
Melbourne.
steps up, and I can justify coming to America to run a game for your magnificent phone.
Yeah.
You're welcome, Mr. TGCon, anytime. There's a
Please
free
come.
pass waiting for you.
See?
I have run a table of 13 players. Yes,
like
13
$110.
players.
Whoa! For Call of Cthulhu?
Holy mother of crap.
Whoa!
Straight big
What?
props to you, man.
Holy
One of
shit.
which I had actually played a game before. So you only had one player that had played the game before. Holy crap. For Call of Cthulhu before, and it was rather enjoyable. So I'm tempted to see if it's possible to run a game with all of you, XD, or maybe just 4 to 5 players. Who knows? Thanks. Costa from Adelaide. But like I said,
comes out playing a game with 13 people. I don't care.
yeah,
That'd be fabulous.
you'll get the boardroom, buddy.
Yeah. No, I'm good for
Here,
you.
did you want
Yeah.
to see?
I don't want to play
Where is
this.
That's not fair.
I love Call of Cthulhu games.
Call
Yeah.
of Cthulhu. Okay, so I've actually only played in a few Call of Cthulhu
Me
games.
too.
The first one I ever played, oh gosh, I think it was 18. And I had a character who was bad at shooting because, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a
You're
skill you don't
usually
need.
bad at-
Yeah, you
Yeah.
don't need to shoot. What are you going to do? Shoot a Shoggoth? I mean, what are you going to do?
what are you gonna do?
And so, but I had a flare gun for some reason, and I got attacked by zombies in a library. So I tried to shoot the zombie, and I missed, and I lit the library on fire, where we needed a book, and I went downhill from there.
But that sounds like an awesome game.
It was a great game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in any case, do you have any situations where you felt pride about?
Well,
Yes.
actually, for me,
first.
what I actually just talked about was a guy who is a professional game designer who's like really, really high up in this company that a lot, like more than 1 million people have downloaded their app
Nice.
for this game. And
Wow.
he and the other people are role-playing together and not getting the experience that my players are getting. Because their group is all cis white het males. And so, but also that I get to, or I manage to run my game around how my players are, so that what they bring to the table gets expressed.
Yes.
And so I think, as a GM, I like to bounce off my players, and I like to get my players to express themselves in the game, and I get to express myself in the game, and that's really important. And so the fact that my game is unique for these professional game designers who have all been role-playing since they were like 10, and they're
Yeah.
all in their 40s or more,
Yep.
That's us, Tappy.
I find that
It's an
I'm very
anonymous
proud of
group.
that. I'm very proud that I managed
Yeah.
to not only have a group to do it, but that I can run a game in such a way that they get to express themselves.
Yeah. I'm going to talk a little bit. Right now I'm helping Mike, who's in our GNext game. He's running an online game for some of his college friends, and it's one of his first kind of GMing experiences. Specifically, the question was when your players go off and are GMing their own games. It was him that I was recently designing. I know, too.
I know.
They grow up so fast. I was actually showing him with the sticky notes, like modular game design, and how to, these things can happen in my game, and they can happen in any order. But the one that really sticks in my mind is Jason, who designed Demigods, and
Yeah.
one of my favorite GMs. I have a plethora of amazing GMs I get to play with, but he is amazing. He was texting with me the other day, and he said to me, he's like, yeah, when I'm GMing, I think, what would you do? What would Kimmy do? And I was like, oh, Jason,
That's
when I
super
GM, I
cool.
think, what would Jason do? So we had this moment of but I think about you. Well, I think about you. And it was pretty amazing. But it's really cool to have people who have played in your games, feel that confidence because you have to be confident as a player before you can be confident as a GM. So the fact that your players are kind of like, yes, I can fly. You're like, I helped a little. Like, I give you the wind to fly on, or whatever it is.
Wind beneath
Yeah.
With your wings, yeah. Taking a little bit of confidence. Like, as a GM, you gave them a situation where they felt empowered enough that they wanted to create that for somebody else. And it's very much like, I think, teaching kids. Like, when I teach kids a concept and they feel cool enough that they can go to their buddy and teach their buddy that concept, or feel confident in, like, answering a question from their friends, like, that's a big thing.
Well, and it's not only that they feel confident, to riff off of what you're saying, because I guess that's been my experience. More of an experience as a player, but some experience as a GM, that not only are they confident enough, but they think they can do it better.
Yeah.
And I think that's fucking rad.
Absolutely.
Because maybe not better, different.
Yeah.
Like, when you sit there long enough and you go, that is really cool and I'm having so much fun, I would have done this.
Yeah.
Or I would have done this.
Yeah, very cool.
So it's really cool to have somebody that's played at a table with you want to, like you said, take over and run a table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
And-
they feel like they can do a good job.
Yeah, and
One of the
of
reasons-
let me finish real quick.
Go for it.
One of the things that I'm really excited with Mike's game, and I only get his, because I don't play in that game, so I only get his stories from it. So who knows?
Yeah.
But the fact that he's the one I was also talking about earlier, where I'm trying to teach him how to get his players to be more open world, because he started off with players who really only played D&D, and they were like looking for the right answer he expected. And he's like, how do I break them of this habit? So now they're in some, I don't even know, it's a space game. They're now breaking into the equivalent of Amazon on a moon somewhere to steal mustache wax to
my
trade
God.
with somebody else for a thing they really need. Like, it's this crazy, amazing sounding game.
Yeah, that sounds legit.
It's totally legit
Yeah.
because, and he's like, playing in the Happy Jacks games. Like, I've experienced these really open world games where the players kind of get to drive the story. So he's been really working at cultivating that type of environment for his game. And that makes me, for Happy Jacks, and also as someone who's GM'd him a couple times, like very proud of that. Like, that's great. And the fact that he's able to pull them from that, there is a rail we must follow, to, oh my God, we can break it. We will. We need a thing. Do you want mustache wax?
Yeah.
Like, what the heck? Okay, great. Like, space game.
Awesome.
Learn how to be proactive and learn how to let your players be proactive when they decide to be.
Yeah. So anyway, that was my share of my
Yeah.
most recent proud moments.
Well, I mean, one thing, I'm going to try and get Jim to talk here, because 20 years ago plus, when we were playing together, I was really intimidated.
Wow.
And I did not run games
Uh-huh.
way back in the day.
We all had those days.
Yeah.
We need to flip our experience, because that's
No, seriously, I've known Tappy since he was like a wee boy.
Yeah, I must have been, 16?
16?
15, 16? Yeah.
But one of the reasons why I think that Happy Jacks is so successful in what they do, and this is kind of odd in the fact that for a large portion of them, they're musicians.
Yeah.
And I think that musicians have a certain connection to being able to follow a melody. And not only that, but they're fair musicians, which means that they're used to interacting.
Renaissance fair, not
Renaissance
like
fair.
equitable.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
I'm not calling them cornies. They all have full-size thumbs. But that they're used to sort of like this improvisational element to their hobby. So all of these things sort of fall together into making sort of like a perfect storm for RPGs. But what I can say is the proud moments that I have is when I role play something and it breaks a certain barrier, or it changes a misconception about something, about the way that these games work. One of the main examples is when I've talked about L5R before, and we were basically involved in the beta test. We were involved in the writing of the game. I was actually involved with Clanmore, the miniatures game, as far as development. I worked for the company. But one of my proudest moments was when I really understood what that samurai drama was about, and I was the very first person in our group to go, I voluntarily die.
Yeah. I remember that.
Which was an unknown element to our gaming group at that point at all. It was like, well, yeah, I'm just taking it to the chin. I'm just going to die. I'll make a new character. Because and my character just full on Kenobi'd. Where we were having a Naijutsu duel, and says, all right, I'm not even going to roll any dice. I lose on purpose. Like,
Oh.
what? Well, politically speaking, if I die, this and this and this happens,
Cool,
which is
cool,
great
cool.
for my clan, and it also helps my friend doing this and this and this. And the GM literally sat there for a good 20 minutes going, okay. You do that and your character dies. And I'm like, cool. And everybody was just like, took a minute to go, you suicided your character. You love that character. I know I love this
Yeah.
character. But you know what this character loves more than anything? Rokugan.
Yeah.
And that sort of set a tenor, a timbre for the entire rest of our L5R experience
Well,
throughout.
Yeah.
The entire experience.
Yeah.
Period. I mean, it changed everything.
It changed everything.
Yeah.
So I went, no, the part of the point of this game is sacrificing yourself for a greater entity.
That's super cool.
And I set that, and that's one of my proudest moments as far as RPG, when I went, dude, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to let a
Yeah.
character go.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
And because that's such a hard thing for a lot of people to do when they invested so much in this character.
Yeah.
I mean, I've paid this character for a good 20 sessions going into this.
Yeah.
And that's the choice I made. And I think that in general, everybody that played in our L5R games from then on had a better experience and experienced L5R in a more genuine way.
Yeah.
Because I did that. And
That's
that's
super
an
cool.
extremely proud moment for me. Yeah.
One of the best things is going into battle, and we're all going into battle, and everybody writes their death haiku.
Yeah.
Because it's a very real possibility you're not coming
You're
out of
not
that
coming
battle.
out of that bad boy.
Right.
Yeah. And dealing with the reality of player death is always a challenge for a lot of people. And there are certain games where you resist it as much as you can, but I'm going to tell you, there are certain games where there's a certain beauty and poetry to just letting go and doing that thing for the right reasons.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sing that because we're going to get sued for that song.
Definitely gets you for that song. But
Yes.
no, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I totally.
Oh,
No, do you have?
well, I just want to
Please.
say, okay, there we do have. This is a fantastic conversation. We have one more email that is
Yeah.
urgent that we need to get to. So I just want us to be aware of that time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just going to say this is a
Yeah.
total tall poppy syndrome thing anyway, so I didn't really want to talk about it too much. But there was a seminar at the con I just went to that was about leadership at the table, and about how leadership at the table doesn't just mean the GM or the MC or the DM. It is super, super cool to watch choices you make as a player to play your character affect the way other people approach their role play. And that, to me, is more collaborative than even the collaborative storytelling, when you kind of start finding these commonalities and you are kind of sympathetic and on the same sort of, I don't know, wavelength as the other people you're playing at, and you all kind of raise your game in a different way.
Yeah.
So it's super cool.
Or like the idea of that failure increases drama and is a good thing.
Yes, that's
and-
another
and
one.
all these elements where people will react negatively just because generally it's a bad thing for them in their personal life. No, we're telling a story. It's slightly a different environment, and where
Yep.
bad things actually can be good.
See, that's not just a bullshit excuse when I roll bad, guys.
Yeah.
People agree with me.
Failure
Sorry, go ahead,
can be
Debbie.
amazing.
Well, and also, if you're a nerd, which I think we are,
Right?
you can look at this. This reminded me when Gina said a leadership
Yeah.
a like a scenario. Like, there is tons of research out there for leadership, for giving people what makes people want to do things, what makes people
Yep.
want to play. And I've brought this up before a number of times with Jane McGonigal, who's this positive psychologist
Yeah.
who works for the game industry and talks about how to get people to buy in, how to get engagement, and what to give people. And I think that's another thing that I really found that I'm proud of is finding these positive psychology techniques
Yes.
in order to bring to my game to get people engaged. And I highly, highly, highly recommend you to research Jane McGonigal, because she's amazing, but other positive psychologists.
Yes.
And how like the research they go into and what makes people excited, what
Yep.
makes people want to do things, and I think
Yeah.
that'll make you a much better GM. So
Yeah.
you
I
just
think so, too.
jogged my
And player.
memory
That's
there with that
awesome.
leadership convention
That's awesome.
thing.
Yeah, and
a
player.
really
Like
good
it
idea.
helps
As a
with-
player, too.
Yeah,
Yes.
player. Like it's
Yeah.
not just for GMs. Like
Yeah.
Absolutely.
you can be a huge asset to a game as a player, not leading people like the general in,
Yeah.
but like hey, like knowing how to like help facilitate.
Yeah.
Or just providing a good example for other players that may be newer too, and
Yeah.
being brave.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
And being able and being mature enough to face consequences because
Or raw expression versus more surface level expression of emotions,
Yeah.
or just all sorts of different things, like
Right.
you said.
Uh-huh.
And then it's got to be right for the table, but
Yeah.
but just feeling that out and feeling what, people feel really rewarded and I don't know, proud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they're able to achieve things that are new and they feel good about it.
and also building connections with the other players and,
Yeah.
and really sort of like putting yourself out there emotionally and
Yep.
and expressing yourself positively and getting good feedback from it
Yeah.
because there's nothing more
Fuck
that can
yeah.
build your self-esteem better than getting positive feedback from you being vulnerable. It's just
Yep.
best
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
ever.
I would love to hear more experiences of people trying to be good players, of vulnerable players,
Yeah.
of active players, of players expressing their motivation. What happens, good or bad?
Or
Yeah.
making
But
difficult choices.
We
yeah.
talk so much about what GMs can do.
Yeah.
And I really, I'm excited about this idea of Happy Jack's players being like the best players people
it's only
have ever seen.
50% of the equation.
Yeah.
I think so
How
too,
rad
and
would that be?
And I think
Absolutely.
even though the GM portion is super, super important and it's what really engages a lot of people that listen, knowing how those triggers work for the people that play at your table is really important.
And when you're playing and
Yeah.
you're being proactive, you know
Yeah.
more of what that's like to be a GM. When you're a
Yeah.
GM and trying to get
Yeah.
people more proactive, that makes you better as a player. Yeah.
Yep.
Fuck yeah.
So
point.
I'm really excited about that.
Me
Yeah.
too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so we have
Cool.
an email that is urgent help from Gaz the DM in the Netherlands.
You're a Nederlander.
Netherlander.
Yeah.
So this is a super long
I don't know if they
email,
say yeah.
so I feel like we need to tag team this.
Yes, please.
Okay.
'Cause
So we'll
I-
each read a part of it, so we'll start
Yes.
with Tappy.
I may
In
have
the
been
Netherlands, we
drinking.
call this kindergarten.
We'll take
Oh,
turns.
yeah. It is,
Sorry,
it is
Big Mouth.
kindergarten.
I'm just addicted to Big Mouth. That was
Dear Happy Jack crew, here I am again after a long time not sending an email, but listening to the podcast as a silent looker. And in my opinion, you have the best podcast there is for RPGs. Woot.
Thank you.
I learn a lot from your cast, and will also have a great laugh as I listen to your cast every day on my bike from and to work. Oh man, you are from the Netherlands. That's awesome. Like
So sweet.
that'd be so rad. Imagine
No,
we all
it
had bikes
is.
instead of a billion cars here.
Yeah.
Maybe the world wouldn't end in 2040.
Well, I take public transportation, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
I
for
do
you.
my part.
This is true.
I now request your help again. I have 2 questions and 1 story to tell, and this might be a long email.
Spoiler, it is.
Well, you're in good company.
Yes.
First of all, the most important question I need help with, and the reason why there was urgent in the title of this email. I'm running a game of the module of Storm King's Thunder, from here on mentioned as SKT, and I'm running into a problem of the adventure. Be warned, spoilers for player who want to or are playing SKT.
All right.
Is Storm King Thunder the game?
No, I believe it's a D&D 5th
It's
It's
an
a D&D
adventure.
5th edition
Yeah,
adventure.
yeah.
Okay. The module is deadly as hell. Oh yes, haha, you're right. In the beginning, as far as to set up possible encounters for the level 4 players. To encounter fully grown fire giants who can
Ooh.
actually one-shot PCs.
That is
Ooh.
ridiculous.
That is, wow, yeah. That's like Tomb of Iuchiban bullshit there.
Yeah, that exactly.
Yeah.
No, it's one of the, I know about this module, and this module is only really smart players can really pull this off. This is a very difficult adventure. Go ahead.
The campaign is set up that the players have no idea what's going on at the beginning of the adventure. They know that giants have been doing more aggressive stuff than before. So hill giants attacking villages when they were scared before stone giants demolishing stuff and all other kinds of bad things. However, the entire start of the adventure doesn't tell the players really much, and it is only built to get to level 5 so that they can get to the rest of the adventure. Now the players are about to enter the open world part of this adventure. Oh, so they got through the giants bit.
Good for them.
That's good.
Yeah. And at the end part of this adventure, they learn what is actually going on. The giant god shattered the ordning, so there's no giant hierarchy anymore. And the giants are fighting over who will become the new king of giants.
Just so everybody knows, what there was a caste system for giants. With storm giants at the top and hill giants at the bottom, there was a real hard hierarchy between all of the giants.
What? D&D having a superset thing?
But the thing was that that hierarchy was determined by the giant gods to be detrimental to the development of giants in general because of an event that happened. So the gods tore down that hierarchy, and they have to basically sort it out for themselves, and it's part of the plot. It's actually a very interesting thing.
That is interesting.
I am so glad you're here.
Yes.
That's awesome.
That is very cool.
That's way cool. This is yeah. Now I want to
play D&D, which I actually like D&D.
Actually, like
D&D.
flipping.
I do too.
No. D&D's great, and
Yeah.
the flipping of the script kind of from Frodo, you need to go take this ring,
Yeah.
to oh shit, fucked up shit going on. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I really like that idea.
You're saying there's something wrong with Lord of the Rings, Tappy?
No, I like reading Lord of the Rings. It was written very well.
It was written super well.
Exceptionally well, so well that I don't need to do that game.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Very
Right?
true.
So, I mean, somebody already wrote it,
Yes.
right?
And they did a great job
They
writing
did
it.
a great job
So
writing
good.
it.
Yeah.
Fantastic, whoever that was.
Yes.
I also heard they're good at languages.
Yeah.
I heard that. Too.
And they fought in World War One.
Cool.
That's where the thing "you will not pass" comes from. Is from Verdun. Is they will not pass.
Yeah. The bloody-
Tappy, I had a Silmarillion-themed wedding. Thanks for telling me these things. I wrote a song that my bridesmaids sang in Elvish.
Wait a mansplain Tolkien to Kimmy.
I wasn't explaining it just to Kimmy.
And it wasn't mansplaining.
I
It was
was-
Tolkien's explaining.
Tolkien's
Tolkien's.
Don't Tolkien explain to a Tolkien scholar.
I was looking to you for approval.
Oh, okay. All right. Good. All right. Thank
You
you.
know more
Yeah,
about
I
Tolkien than
approval.
literally anybody else I know.
Except my husband.
Really?
I don't know your husband that
Oh, yeah.
well.
No, that's true.
Nice.
Yeah, no, he knows so much more than I do. It's crazy.
So wait,
Oh,
maybe,
I
is
love
that when
that.
you married him?
That's one of the reasons. Our
That's
first
probably
date
the
ended up
reason.
being this huge, crazy, like, dive into the Silmarillion and Tolkien lore. And that's where, like, maybe we'll have a second date. This is working well.
Wow.
I went to
That's
pick up
super
my
cool.
wife on our first date, and
She was
Yeah.
playing World of Warcraft, and I said, this one might work out.
See, that was our third date. Is he
Yeah.
handed me his phone to see something, and I saw he had the World of Warcraft app, and I was
Let
like,
this be a lesson unto you.
Yeah. Mine had a Dune encyclopedia that was so well thumbed that it actually almost fell apart.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Getting
All right.
kind of a nerd boner on that one.
No, it makes me happy.
It does. All right, continue.
I have no idea where I am.
I don't know either. Just
The thing with the stuff.
The rest of the adventure, I think.
Talking about the giants and their
The Madro's Deadliest Health, campaigning. Oh, yes, rest of the adventure, yes.
Yes.
Now the player's about to enter the open world as part of this adventure. And at the end part of this adventure, they learn what is actually going on. Oh yeah, we did that. The problem is that the players do not have any actual motivation to, well, deal with all of this. Except because it's the good thing to do. And telling them out of game, this is how the adventure goes.
So meta, basically.
Yes.
Right, so
Yeah.
you don't want to meta it.
Yeah.
I sprinkled some homebrew kind of motivation for the players in forms of visions and dreams. Each of the players got a personal vision. So the PC rogue sees him sitting on a giant throne, decked in all kinds of magical goodies, and lording over shadowy figures. The cleric sees a giant figure sitting in the same chair, but all of the people around him are dead, slain by massive weapons. So they have a small bit of motivation to go figure out what happened, but not as much to go into the actual dangerous places with no clear goal.
Got it.
The book doesn't offer much help, which is a downside that more DMs are complaining about on the interwebs, because it well, just expects players to follow the adventure because, well, that's why you run the book. However, as you all know, players like to do things themselves.
What?
Crazy!
What agency?
Now I'm trying to figure out a way to get the PCs more motivated in the story and having them to have actual proper motivation to do all this. I have a diverse party of players.
Woohoo.
A tiefling rogue whose motivation is power and wealth, together with his half-orc bodyguard, a lizardman cleric that went on adventure because he couldn't sit still in his tribe, went away and then saw his tribe gone, and doesn't know if they are alive or dead. Oh, they disappeared. A Tabaxi ranger who is on this adventure because he heard a prophecy that apparently was about him, and it looked like fun to see where that would take him. And a new PC that gets there next session.
Okay, I'm just gonna stop for a second. Like, that's amazing. Like, there's a prophecy about me. I just figured I'd go along with it. That's cool to see what happens. It's like, that's amazing. I kind of really buy into this bullshit, but I want to see what happens.
The Oracle's
killing
mentioned
Ted.
me by name.
It is. They're like, "Brrrs," like you must do this. All right, I guess I will.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I like that attitude.
Totally
Yeah.
Bill and Ted, right?
Yeah. Totally. All right. Continue. Sorry. A tiefling sorcerer is also. Yeah.
A tiefling sorcerer that in her backstory was a victim of a magical experiment. Now has 5 spirits living inside her,
Ooh.
all giving her sort of a split personality, and she's looking for a way to get the other 5 out. Mm-hmm. So if you can give me some helpful tips, ideas,
like
or something I can use for this.
Shit.
Okay, well, I mean, the tiefling sorcerer easy. Have one spirit be like, hey, you got to do this bullshit because I was a giant?
Oh, that's
something, I don't
interesting.
know.
Yeah.
I mean, the new PC, hey, new PC, you're going to give yourself a motivation on why you're going to do this.
Oh, that's hard.
That is a hard one.
So he's asking how he can motivate players to go with the railroad of, or am I misunderstanding?
No, I think it isn't that he doesn't want to give them motivation. He wants them to be motivated themselves.
To follow the module?
I think.
Okay.
Is it you want?
I think this is a situation.
Yeah.
The module has a certain end goal
Yes.
and a certain enemy that you're supposed to fight. The characters being from generic places don't have any particular investment into that that current narrative, and he wants to give them a reason to actually be vested in that storyline without, which is difficult because giants be giants. What the hell does it have to do with me? That's hard, man. If your players aren't willing to go along and sort of build something towards that goal, you have to basically come up with some kind of MacGuffin all the way around. And since you have a fairly diverse player group, that means that you have to come up with a different motivation for just about every character.
Well,
Man, that's a rough question.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of go with the generic. Like, it's good for the realm. Like, if these giants are everywhere fighting and they're trampling on crops, and and villages and ruining life for all the people in the kingdom, then it's in the best interest to figure out why the fuck this is happening and how can we stop it from happening anymore. Obviously, the answer isn't you can't kill all the giants,
right?
And maybe they're players. Maybe they'll do that. I don't take responsibility if that's what your players come up with. If they try and burn them, that's going to happen.
Well, fire giants don't burn well.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
Or do
they burn so well?
Now, one of the great things about this kind of stuff is that you can either see something as an obstacle or an opportunity.
Right.
The way I look at this is an opportunity to create a political game where
Interesting.
where the after effect of this giant war or this basically destabilization of their culture would actually have ramifications upon the other realms of other races, strong ramifications. Because really there should be a lot of trade. There should be some interaction between the giants and other people. So if you really think about it, there might be some reason why the king of the whatever realm that you're in goes, hey, look, we need somebody to take care of this crap because politically speaking, if the frost giants win this thing, we're going to be boned because we trade with the fire giants, and usually the storm giants have been a stabilizing force in that, and now they're gone. So, you can really create sort of political reasons within your realm to try to be more proactive in that struggle, because you have to give characters ramifications to what's going on.
Yeah.
If you don't give any real ramifications to things going south or going or not, they're not going to be motivated into doing something. So you can create a political situation that the characters get drawn into, and you can use that as a party motivation instead of individual motivation.
Yeah, James B., who's in the chat room right now, has run this, and he says the factions in SKT would help create what Jim is talking about. The information is in the module, you just kind of have to dig it out. So there are factions and things that you can use for a more political motivation already built in there, so just look for it.
Look for those, yeah. And also, especially with a new character that you have coming up, how about working with that new character to give them a very hardcore motivation for wanting to do these things and a reason to drag the other player characters along with them. You're in a really good point that you have a new player joining, and you can actually start to create a character background for that character that would be a driving motivation for the rest of the group to move forward in your narrative.
Yeah, it might be fun to flip things on its head. Like, a lot of games have, like, oh, the king wants you to, fix this for the good of the realm. Maybe one of the, chieftains of one of the giant tribes is like, I cannot get involved with this because we would start a war with the other tribe. So we need random humans. We're going to pay you really well, random humans. We're also going to deny any knowledge of your involvement, blah, blah, blah.
Deniable assets is always a great way to bring in an adventuring group because they're not really tied down to anything, which is a perfect idea for any D&D game.
Right. And it's super fun for change, instead of working for a random king, it's like you're working for the giants. The giants are tired of fighting with each other or something. They want this to stop. Maybe this is part of what you're doing there.
Or maybe exactly. So look at it from a macro scale. Instead of trying to look at it from a personal motivation scale for each individual character, try to zoom it out and look at it from a more global scale and see what kind of political maneuverings that they can be part of and which factions that they can ally themselves with. Yeah. And it's always fun to give characters some choices into who they're going to align themselves with.
Yeah.
I'm curious about what kind of homebrew motivation he gave them too, because that to me sounds like an awesome way to hook the players that you got for this game versus the plethora of players there could have been for this game. So I'm wondering if that engaged them partially or that just didn't, that washed out, because increasing that kind of a, vision quest or something like that, you're chosen, whatever, I think that sounds kind of awesome.
And it's also a really great opportunity
over really well.
To talk about how important it is when you're helping your players make their characters and having them giving you plot hooks for those characters.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm just entering into a 5th edition game. We're playing in the same sort of general realm right now, too. It's really important when you create your character to go, hey, these are a couple of things that my character is sort of about, and giving the GM some opportunity to sort of like poke at those motivations or poke at those goals and have them align with other things. So, once again, I go into the thing, this is a partnership. You have to work with, DMs have to work with players, and players have to work with GMs. Because if you don't start creating interesting situations for the player characters to go to, you can't just leave that completely up to the GM. That's my personal theory.
I agree. Players should try and figure out why they're motivated to do stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
I am an adventurer.
Yeah.
I am adventuring.
But think about normal people. Usually somebody's a plumber or an electrician.
Well, and even
or a lawyer.
Somebody is motivated by wealth, and somebody is motivated by a tribe, and somebody is motivated by adventure or fame. I don't know. Look at the Wizard of Oz. Those dudes all wanted different shit.
Right.
But they all went with the little dog and the girl with the red shoes to go get their shit.
Because they all figured out, it's like, I want a heart.
Yeah.
And then
I
say,
want a brain.
oh, wait, I bet you a wizard could give me that.
Yeah,
they could
yeah,
say,
exactly.
well,
Brought it
fuck
all
a wizard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
what's going on with you and this dog?
Yeah.
I need to
Yeah.
figure out how to get my shit and go off on their own.
How do you get
So-
your wealth and your fame and your
Right.
whatever for your tribe? And
How
your,
big is that dog's brain? That's a player character answer. Can I set the dog on fire and steal its brain?
brain.
No, the brain will cook off. No, don't do it. But
Monkeys
yeah, like
are smart and they fly. Maybe I could put my brain in a monkey, and fly.
And fly. Then I have
yeah, I'll put my brain in a monkey's chest and put his lungs in its
That
brain.
is the PBTA answer. All right, sorry. You actually had a better point than that.
I totally forget what
Sorry,
it
I
is.
screwed you
Oh,
over.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, but
No, but I think what I'm trying to say is like I think players should figure out why they want to do stuff too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And you saying, well, obviously this is the prophecy I heard about.
right.
Yeah.
100%. Obviously this will bring me wealth. 100%.
Yeah.
Cleric
Or-
that
Yeah.
shit with
That
this tribe.
something-
I don't know.
Tribe. Something,
Well,
something.
that cleric is like, well, I'm gonna find my tribe when I get all this bullshit from
Yeah.
this. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please
No.
come with us. We need a cleric.
Well, things like clerics and paladins are easy to motivate.
Yeah.
Because you can just
God.
give them a message from
Yeah.
their deity, and
Yeah.
it's a done deal.
Generalize all paladins. Like,
Yeah.
you can be complex and be a paladin.
Yeah.
I've played
It's
several
true.
paladins.
I played a paladin once that had to go to Chicago, and it was 106 miles, and had a full tank of gas, half-pack cigarettes. It's dark, and they were in
No,
sunglasses.
seriously, you weren't in
Oh
this
my
game,
God.
but we played D&D in my dwarf paladin, and the only reason I was playing a dwarf paladin is because I said, just make me a character, I don't care, just dwarf fighter, fine. So your stats were too good, I had to make you a paladin. But we're in the Underdark, and we find the bunch of dark elves. And the first thing that happens is my paladin goes in, shit, we're in a dark elf citadel. The half-elf is going to go off, and I'm going to have to back his play. And at the very same time, writing on the note is the half-elf going, shit, we're in an evil realm. The paladin's going to cook off, and I'm going to have to back his play. And the gray wizard going, oh shit, the good aligned people are going to cook off. I'm going to
have to back their play.
The thing, when we shared all the notes, we're basically all aligned the same way, going, oh fuck, this is bad. Somebody's going to do something bad, and I'm going to have to back their play. But we all stayed cool, man.
Nice.
But it's one of those things where there's a lot more sources for motivation than just your basic motivations for an individual.
Yeah.
There's duty, there's honor, there's a lot of things.
Hashtag duty. Hashtag justice.
Hashtag justice.
Yeah.
Hashtag truth.
Hashtag power.
Duty.
Hashtag
Hashtag power.
And I wish you would have been running this thing. I thought it was just going to be Stu and some other people, or else I would have bought you your Gene X card. That,
Oh, that's all right. No worries.
but look at it from a more global point of view, and see what political resources you have to try to motivate characters.
Yep.
And because when you're talking about kings, you can go straight up Conan and just throw a bunch of rubies at you. Go find my daughter. Because gold loses his luster and rubies lose their shine, because all I am is a father that wants his daughter back.
And diamonds are a girl's best friend.
And diamonds are
Yeah.
a girl's best friend. But there are a lot of reasons why somebody will pay you to do something. You can choose sides in a faction.
Yeah.
You can switch sides in a faction, which is in the middle of the thing, which is always super fun. You're dealing with a situation where you have a lot of different elements involved. Find elements that your characters might align themselves to, and you'll find ready motivation for it.
All right, this is a long email. We should continue.
Okay.
Okay, not it.
Yeah.
All right. Now, for
Do
the
it.
second question. It's something that is eating me from the inside because I don't know if I did something wrong or was right, or if it was the right choice to make.
Like a chest burster.
Oh my god.
Awesome.
I was part of a gaming group in another city that played once every 2 weeks.
2
and after
weeks.
work, yes, I had to get into a train and have a 15-minute ride to play for 2 hours. The other players could bike there or had their own car. I alone was bound by public transport, so this means I only had 2-ish hours to play the game, and I had to pay for the train tickets. As a player, I am a min-maxer and a rules lover.
Nothing wrong with that.
I
Enjoy
know
the game you want to enjoy.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You play the way you want to play. I know it's bad, but I respect that the GM. But I respect that the GM has the last say. And because I only have 2 hours of playtime every session, I like it when the story goes forward instead of, well, fucking around and not accomplishing anything.
You and me both, brother.
We were playing the adventure Out of the Abyss, and I made a Shadar Kai Ranger.
Ooh.
I can say Ranger. All the weird words, and I mess up Ranger. All right.
You know what? That speaks more to your nerddom than anything.
I know, right? I teach kids to read. All right. With plans of going to the Underdark specialization because, well, it's the Underdark adventure. After 3 sessions of play, I figured out that my character didn't fit the group. He was a bit too much of a loner, and as motivation for everything else, wanted to leave the Underdark, but wanted to stay to find his family. So after session 3, we're all traveling. 3 PCs and 6 story NPCs from the adventure. Ooh, that's a lot of NPCs.
That's a lot of
That's
NPCs.
true.
Please see the last episode of this podcast where we talk
Kimberly.
about GNPCs.
Yeah, they're
I was
they're
wondering
the
why
opposite
there was
of what
little
is good.
hopping.
Yes.
shit.
But it sounds like
Kimberly.
they're written into the adventure, though.
All right.
Yeah.
It'll say Kimberly.
Yes, it's the document says Kimberly because it's all
I know.
official.
I was wondering where there
Who
was
is
a little
Kimberly?
a pink hopping thing,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Look, guys, there's a pink
That's
thing
where
in my
Kimmy's
doc."
clicking on the
Yeah.
Google Doc.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
And see,
awesome.
there's you.
Yes. Google Docs are the best, guys. Anyway, I told our GM that I wanted to switch PCs since in the last session I killed one of the NPCs because he might have been a murderer and killed 2 other NPCs. In my defense, I only killed him because after 2 other players were debating for 10 minutes in real time, either to take him along or leave him alone, wounded, with no weapons in the Underdark, so I thought killing him was more of a mercy thing.
I like your logic, sir.
Yeah.
Actually,
that's good.
in the Underdark, that might be true.
Yeah.
The DM said he understood, but he didn't want to do it now because because of the city we were going to. I was fine with this because, well, it is better to do a character switch in the city instead of doing it when we're out in the run in the middle of the Underdark somewhere. Here comes session 4. We found ourselves in a submerged temple with water leaking through the walls. No clear way to break free and at a dead end. So my character was also someone who wants to go on has a plan to throw some coins in a well and have more treasure that had more treasure in it because maybe it would transport us somewhere out of the temple and be like a secret elevator. When it was a trap because, well, this shrine was dedicated to one of the demon lords.
Yes.
Now, all the NPCs turned against me because it was my idea to throw the coin and because of the previous killing. So my character snaps back at them, telling them that at least I'm doing something instead of just following along and bringing no input. So, all in all, my character hates the rest of the party, and the rest of the party hates my character. Cue end of the session. We were broken out of the temple, swimming up into a dark lake. My character swam alone, and the rest all had the buddy system. We reached level 3, which means the character is invisible in the darkness, and and 2 creatures with dark vision. All right, tag team, Gina.
I text the GM after the game, asking them how long he thinks it would take each of us to reach the city because I didn't see any way my character would stay with the group after this. And as a player, wasn't having any fun playing him anymore. He says he doesn't know, he doesn't want to rush us, but he understands and says that this was the low point of my character. So I tell him that I really, really want to switch. Even pitched him an intro for my new character, an Eladrin warlock who got into the Underdark through a weird-ass portal, got stuck in a fisherman village for 600 years, and is a bit crazy.
That sounds fun.
I know, right? That because we got level 3 finds his book, is desperate to get out of the Underdark, and then opens another portal, dropping in on the party. I had this idea because 1, it meant that my new character goes to the party, but they are still lost in the Underdark. 2, make sure that my character doesn't have the extra knowledge about the Underdark and be like a Deus Ex Machina, and that they suddenly know how to get out of the city. So the GM shoots this idea down, naturally, and tells me that we agreed before that we would do the switch inside the city itself, and that he doesn't want to switch because the adventure is about trust and mistrust between PCs and NPCs. And having a new character just pop up so random wouldn't fit inside this. even though we literally have a PC who randomly accepted 2 NPCs who we met as a random encounter in our group. Jim, do you want us there?
There we go.
Well, it sounds to me like you get to not ride the train for a little while.
So I
Until you
tell
get to a fucking
him
city.
Right.
that I just don't see how my current character would fit in because, well, we all hate each other, and I asked him what he had in mind when then if my character would have died. If that happened, would I just not play until the rest finds the city? He then accuses me of trying to force my way by telling me that I didn't get my way, that I just kill my characters to still get what I want, and that I power game too much and I expected more roleplay instead of just trying to move the story forward. I explained to him that my Elydrian, who only has seen the fisherman village and never met other creatures than his fellow elves in his youth, and the fisherman that he doesn't have a problem just fucking about, watching other creature just fucking about and having meaningless discussions because he finds that highly interesting. But still, he keeps referring to the argument we made before session 4 that I agreed to do the switch in the city. I eventually, with pain, stopped gaming with them because I think that my play style and the DM style isn't compatible. But I am still thinking about this.
Aww.
Was I the asshole that wanted to force his character to end decision on the GM, or was it the DM who just didn't want to change the story because he had another vision in his mind? By the way, I didn't ask the other players what they wanted because they didn't know I was going to switch characters, and I wanted to keep the secret so that I wouldn't affect their decisions made while my ranger was still with them.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, let's have that conversation. And
Yeah.
It sounds like to me that you're saying to your GM, I'm not having any fun.
Mm-hmm.
And your GM said, well, suck it.
Yeah.
And,
That's exactly the way I read it.
and yeah, I mean, regardless of how you play and if you're more power gamey than others, etc., you're like, my character isn't designed for this. Like, we're all fucking around with a bunch of NPCs, and I'm designed to be this thing that is outside of a group. And it's more group-oriented than I thought before. Fuck this character, I want a character that's group-oriented.
And it seems like the character that was created would fit just fine in with the narrative wherever.
Right,
like,
because-
don't have to wait till the city.
The character's like, I don't understand this
Yeah,
interaction.
I don't get the Underdark. I
Yeah.
have no special knowledge. Like, wouldn't you want the people at your table to enjoy playing their character at the table?
Tabby, when you're running a game and somebody says, I'm not having fun, what's your reaction?
Okay, let's see what we can do today so we can have fun.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the underlying thing of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're a GM and one of your players says, dude, this character's not working, I'm not being entertained by this game at all, that means that's a call of action. That's a call to action.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And him coming to the table with a suggestion is great. I mean, as the GM, you don't necessarily have to just whole cloth take that idea. Be like, hey, this is, I really like that idea for a character. Why don't we weave it in this way? You don't just have to say completely yes, everything you want, player, go ahead.
Right.
Like, you can tweak it. You can have that negotiation a little bit and say, how can we make this work for kind of everybody? But just being like, hey, I'm not going to rush us going to the city. You're going to have to just suck it up until we get there. Like, I do think if the GM was like, hey, I think that the city's the best place for this. Let's hang in there one more session. We'll make sure we get to the city at the end of the next thing. Like, that can be part of your negotiation because you both have a say in that. But just being like, oh, we'll get there eventually. Yeah, you got to suck it up until we get there. I'm not going to do anything to make it happen faster. You're like, that seems a little bit shady to me.
No, and it's weird because as a player, one of the things that I am probably, I don't want to say most uncomfortable about, but I'm very conscious of as a player, is when you're trying to introduce a new character or reintroduce a character that wasn't in the last session and it's taking too long.
Yeah.
So I don't want somebody else to have to sit at a 3-hour game or whatever for an hour and a half before they get to play.
Yeah.
So why would you not like you said, be collaborative. If you don't want to, whole stock accept the guy's character the way he's envisioning it, okay, fine. But like, what could you do to say, introduce that character earlier and not have to wait however many sessions until they get to the city while he doesn't have fun?
Yeah, or like another thing is like, okay, if you say you're a GM, it can be hard to be a GM. You have things you want to do, whatever. Like be like, hey, I can't come up with a way, even though you come up with a really great idea for your new character to enter. Do you want to die and then come back in like 2 sessions? And that way he's not sitting there wasting his time.
Right.
He's not wasting his train money. That's not the best solution, but that's a better solution than telling him, no, you have to sit there and play a character
Right.
when you're not having fun.
Right.
Like, give it, like, we're adults, we have limited amounts of time in our life. Like, at least give him that time back where he can do something else that is fun and then come back when he can have fun, rather than making him feel obligated to hang in there when he's not enjoying himself. It's not a job. It's not a fucking job.
I think there are some GMs that have an issue with dealing with a game as a collaborative entity.
Really?
Yes. And
It's good because that's the only reason we still have a podcast.
Oh my gosh, totally right.
so, as a GM, one of the primary things that you have to keep in mind is that this isn't your show. This is a collaborative situation where you have to allow your characters to contribute. And really, when one of them honestly tells you that they're not having fun at your game, you really need to take that seriously.
Absolutely.
And you really need to be at least a little bit flexible about certain things. And if you have reasons why that doesn't work, you at the very least need to try to communicate those reasons,
Right.
so the player understands that this isn't just an arbitrary decision that you just want this to be this way because you want it.
Yeah.
They have to understand this. Oh, okay, so that's part of the story, and this is part of the element that I'm in, and I need to be here long enough to make sure that goes off. Cool. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
So please, just cooperate.
That's another thing I don't know. I think somebody wrote in on another podcast talking to us about you guys say all the time having a grown-up conversation. Okay, yeah, we all know this. But I do think a lot of issues, this is like a real life thing and a gaming thing, come down to opportunities with communication and the fact that, like, if you have competing objectives here, like, which it seems like maybe you do, somebody's not forthcoming about what the deal is, and it sounds like kind of the GM.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we're hearing your side of the story where you're not happy, and it sounds like you've expressed that, though, and what your solution is. So then it seems like it should be incumbent upon the other participants in the game, or surely the GM, to say, here's the thing, folks. Here's why I don't want you to sub in your character right now because there's something coming up. I mean, you don't have to.
But once again, it goes into the trust
or
thing.
something,
Because as a GM, if you're keeping something under your hat because it's important to be a surprise, you have to be able to go to your player characters and say, like, I need you to trust me.
Exactly.
I need you to stay with this character for 2 more sessions.
Yeah.
And everything will be fine at that point. But I got something in mind that I need to do that I don't really want to tell you about because I don't want to ruin the surprise. But please let me do that. And that in and of itself is enough communication. And if you have enough trust between your player character and your GM, your player character should be able to go, hey, you know what? I'll go along with that. That's fine.
I think so.
Because you have a reason behind it, and it's not just you wanting to enforce your will on me. There's a reason that you want to do it.
Yeah.
So, give up at least that. You don't have to give up your entire plot, but you can go, hey, brother, just trust me. It's going to be okay.
Yeah. That can get hard, though.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, jeez.
like
Sorry, I had to put some infantile humor back
Yes.
into this.
we've been so adult and mature in this podcast. I was in that position a little bit with Mode of Sin, even though we just got done talking about how Mode of Sin was. Like, by the time, spoilers. No, I'm not going to say it. But by the time I stopped playing the character I played for a while, long time, like 3 years, I was ready to not be that character anymore. And I was so relieved when that happened because I had gotten to a point where it wasn't super fun anymore. Like I still went. I still liked everybody at the table.
Sure.
But the game had sort of become a job. And it was a great story. It was a great game, but the position that my character had ended up in had so much responsibility and things I had to manage as a character that it was just starting to reflect my real life a little too much.
That happened to me in LARP.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
So it was like,
LARP a lot.
so like while there's that hang in there for me for a while, you can have
Yeah.
it the GM like that can't be that trust can't be a replacement for the person having fun.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so I was lucky enough that I hung in there for a while, and then I was able to move on to something that was more fun at that time for me. And I think now going back, like I'm away from that. Like I would love going back and playing that character again because it's a different situation. But like GMs can't take advantage of that trust for too long.
No.
And I guess taking advantage is bad, but you can't rely on that trust to get people to hang in there for too long. So.
No, I think so too. I just think, and this comes more from a work background for me than a gaming background, but I just think it applies, is that I think the more people know, and I got told I was top-down leadership type for a long time, and I think that makes sense because I think people can, once again, we were talking about people can suck up things if they really understand what the background is a lot of times. Suck it up.
It's hard.
Exactly. But to your point, Kimmy, like that's not going to always continue if you're always fucking up or the company's always fucking up or whatever, and you're always asking people to, but the fact that dialogue can be there so that you can say, I totally hear you. I just don't think I can do 2 more sessions.
Yeah.
So that you're at least talking about it.
Absolutely.
So absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, the role-playing games need to be a conversation, and that's really the bottom line. It has to be a conversation. It has to be a lot of people involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
All right. There's okay.
well,
Yeah.
it's
More to
it's
this
difficult if
No, one
the
more chunk.
GM feels like he is the computer game, and
Yes.
you are supposed to go through the puzzles that are in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, if he says, you're just trying to force your way and I want more roleplay from you and not power gaming, that sounds like there's already an adversarial relationship.
It
Yeah.
does.
And that is not the best way to have a relationship with your GM. And so maybe you want to address this adversarial relationship that doesn't sound like it's just from this one game.
Right.
And say, hey, what did I do to piss you off?
Right.
And just actually have an adult conversation. Be like, I'm not trying to
Yeah.
piss you off. I'm just trying to play. And he's like, I'm just trying to run a game, and you're pissing me off. And then maybe you guys can work out that you both have incorrect understandings of each other, or one of you does, and maybe you shouldn't play together.
Yeah.
But it sounds
Yeah.
like there is something going on here that isn't just this game.
Yeah. I agree.
That's a really good point.
All right. We're going to continue reading.
Okay.
Not it.
All right.
Not
and
it.
now, the last part of this email.
Too late.
Too late. The success story of my last one-shot. As a DM, I ran a game for 4 players. It's a one-shot that I adjusted a bit because it makes it more fun for me to run, and I like it 5 times more already. And I ran it like 5 times already. It is about the evil cult that brainwashes people. The players have to go to a cave where the sweet smell of where there's a sweet smell when the monster is asleep. This sweet smell gives the feelings of joy and happiness. And the monster is always when the monster is away, the air is foul and makes people irritated and aggressive. In this cave, there's a keymaster, a crazy wizard because of the mood swings in the air. He guards the door that the PCs need to solve a puzzle to open. The original adventure, it's just a low-level mage. However, I found that so boring, so I made him an OPGM PC. And now I can hear, oh no! Oh no, Mr. Bell!
OP.
Overpowered.
Oh, thank you. Cool.
That's
I
okay.
don't play like online games.
I've heard of computers.
Yeah.
Computers.
Yeah. Computer.
Oh my god, I was in a staff meeting today, and they were talking about a math game that the kids can play for kids, and I was like, and they were describing it, I'm like, oh, it's an MMO with math, and they were just like,
Qua?
I was like, oh god.
So many letters flying at me.
My
You don't
nieces
know.
play a game like that,
Yes.
and they love it.
It's very
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, it's basically like Fortnite for learning. So it's
Right.
like, nice.
So it's
All
not
the
like
way
Math
to
Blaster.
Holland.
No. But that was cool, man. Back in the day, that was
Yeah.
Math Blaster was
Holland.
fucking
So
rad.
great.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, this GMPC doesn't have any story relevance, and he has two personalities: Steve and Bob. Steve is the one.
Steve.
Yes.
I know.
At least it's not adjacent. We've
And
got like
Bob.
so many of those.
So
Steve
many
is the
Steves,
one.
though.
Yeah, Steve is the one that comes out when the air is foul. He's grumpy, irritated, and doesn't like it when people insult him or are rude to him. What he does, he banishes them for like 2-ish minutes to elemental plane of water, or uses a personal silence spell. No damage taken, or just something to silence the PC. It also helps me give the other players a chance to shine, because if the alpha gamer takes over, Steve just gets annoyed and sends him away, and I turn to another player and just RP with the shy wallflower. Interesting.
Being in the elemental
okay.
plane of water for like 2 minutes would totally suck because
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
wouldn't be holding your breath. You
No.
just
Yeah.
start breathing in water.
Yeah.
And
But then you come
die.
back and then you.
Yeah,
2
it's
minutes you won't die.
I would die in real life.
No,
tell you
you'd
the
feel like you were dying. You would
I have
panic.
such a
feel like
potent
you were dying.
fear of drowning that the idea of it is actually causing me anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Like total number
Yeah.
one fear.
Bob is more friendly.
Yeah.
He helps
I
the
got caught
play.
in a riptide when I was young.
Oh,
jeez.
man.
Wow.
He helps the players by healing them. However, his healing method is a little bit weird. Instead of using a healing spell, he sends the player to a divine realm where the angel heals the character. Every time I send a player to this realm, the angel asks if the character wants to meet God. So clerics and paladins get to meet their deity. However, meeting God is something that low-level characters cannot handle. So if they look at God, I make them go blind or have them roll a saving throw not to go mad.
It sounds like this guy's got a portal gun.
Yeah. Don't meet your gods.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where's your
true.
god now? Right there. Ah!
I'm blind. I'm blind.
Madness is a bit of madness is a bit of a theme in the adventure. Once they get back from the realm, they are blind and have no idea what to do.
Oh my
of
God.
course, Bob is willing to help them and gives the player true sight just to make it fun.
What?
And not shitty.
Wow.
Your character's now
I'm gonna give you
blind.
true shite. Now go look at God.
Yeah.
True shite is for real.
shite.
True
Yeah.
shite.
God, that is true shite.
True shite.
True shite.
Yeah. But the last time I ran
That'd be
this,
awesome.
That's the worst spell ever.
ever.
Oh, this true shite. But it only speaks the truth. Oh,
so true.
it smells true.
My familiar is true shite. It sits on my shoulder. Like, am I really a wizard? Or am I just like,
Or am I just gross?
yeah, a scatological, like,
Are you going to touch it to make sure? No, you won't.
what is that, a scatophile?
I'm telling you right
I
now.
don't
True
know.
shite. True shite.
Okay.
I'm gonna say, all jokes aside, that's a lot of fucking with the players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
a lot of shit. Anyway,
A lot of shit.
yeah.
It's
True
true
shite.
shit.
True shite. Yeah.
But the last time I ran this cleric did something unknown. After he went to meet God the first time, he became blind, and he had an angel cure his madness. He went in and requested to meet God again. Since he was still blind at the moment, he thought, what could go wrong? That's always a great attitude to have as a
Right?
player.
Yeah.
And
Great
I
final words.
I need to have a character where it's just like the backstory of the character, just what could
What
go
could go
wrong.
wrong.
And just play with that in mind.
Yeah.
It's like so many of my characters. I'm like, I'll do it. What could go wrong? Oh,
Totally true.
everything. But I'm
Yeah,
good with it.
That's what happened in Fallout 818.
all the games.
Yeah.
Because what could go wrong is what's entertaining.
Yes.
Yep.
It is. And all the ones are what could go wrong every time, and I get all
Kimmy,
of them.
Jesus.
Snake eyes.
So many.
So many ones.
Snake
many
eyes.
ones. I'm already blind, so I cannot go mad looking at him. What the player does, he asks God a question. So of course God
As you
answers.
do.
So the low-level player hears God speak, making it the player who is now deaf and became mad again. Everyone at the table is rolling on the floor, laughing, and the face palms were aplenty. Great times were had. Eventually, the Mad Wizard summoned the angel to cure the cleric again of his madness, and the wizard gave the cleric true sight, but he was still deaf, and the party went on their way to finish the adventure. This is my success story, and I hope it inspires someone out there not to be afraid to do silly things, and the use of an overpowered character to mess with the players a bit, as long as everyone has fun.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If everybody at the table smiles and having a great time,
Yeah.
what the hell
Yeah.
ever, man.
Absolutely.
We just did.
Yep. Greetings from the Netherlands.
The
Gaz.
Netherlands.
Gaz the DM.
Yeah.
P.S. Sorry about the spelling and grammar. Not having English as a primary language and being dyslexic will result in emails that make teachers like Kimmy cringe and grab an extra glass of wine.
Please.
It's okay. English is not my primary language.
Yeah.
I not speak the Hollandish.
I've got 5 kids in my class who don't speak English. Reading this was a cinch.
Yeah.
No problem.
Well
So,
done,
Yep.
you.
Well, thank
No,
you
the
so much
fact
for
that the
writing in.
attempt was made.
Yes.
Yeah.
We appreciate
Especially
it.
that large of an attempt.
Yeah. And
mean-
you used great vocabulary. I was super impressed by the level of the vocabulary that you used in there.
I
Yeah.
know.
Well done. Continue.
Once again, proving people that from Europe are just better than we are.
I just learned I had
that's
I have a great grandmother from Holland.
Nice.
I thought it was all the Germany.
No, yeah. So the best thing to do as a teacher, I am prescribing that you write in more emails to practice your English. And they're really fun to read, so thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yes.
And please, everybody, send us more emails.
More emails! Yes.
Yeah.
So we've been getting some really great gems lately. It's really been fun.
Yeah.
So
Actually, this
awesome
has been a really impressive, fun group of emails.
Yeah.
sauce. Today, exactly.
Really well done.
Yeah.
Really good conversations. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys. And thank you everyone who wrote in and who was listening and stuff. Are we done? I think we're done.
I think so.
Yeah.
All right. Fabulous. Let's see the thing. I did it right.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for listening to season 23, episode 1 of the Happy Jacks RPG podcast. I am Kimmy.
This is Tappy.
I'm Gina, she, her.
I am Jim.
And thank you for listening. We will end it with a song if I can figure out how to do that. And please check out happyjacks.org/schedule for all the APs. If you haven't already followed our 3 different feeds, we have our Happy Jacks Advice Show, this show's feed. We have our Happy Jacks AP campaign, our actual play campaign feed. And we also have our one-shots and ShadowCon feed. So
Yeah.
go subscribe to all those. You can find them at happyjacks.org. So thank
And
you guys
remember,
much.
math is fun. Math teaches us how to have fun.
Yes, it does.
It does.
That is the
I was a
ultimate
math
truth.
major.
All right, and we might leave you with a song. Don't hold your breath.
Oh.
They're going to be
Bye, guys.
Kind friends and companions, come join me in rhyme. Come lift up your voices, chorus with mine. Let us drink and be merry, our grief to refrain. For we may and might never all meet here again. So here's a health to the company and one to my love. Let us drink and be merry with blessings from above. Let us drink and be merry, all grief to refrain. For we may and might never all meet here again. Here's a health to the sailor lad whom I love so well. His style and his splendor none can excel. He's a smile like no other, and he lays in
The preceding program has been a presentation of the Angry Folk Media Empire.